is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media, Incorporated. Great action all around. Unfortunately, though, TJ Watt may be lost for the season. Oh, and we see you. This is Total Football Talk. Well, welcome to Total Football Talk. It is hard-hitting new gridiron news and action just the way you like it. Well, for the 68th time, I am your co-host, Cole Johnson, also known as the Mad Scientist and the EP of all EPs. But I'm not doing this alone. I'm joined by my other co-host of this program. You know him as, Mr. In or Out Sports Debate. You also know him as Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report. Hopefully he wants to call it something else, which I don't blame him. I would too. He also is the man who is in charge of D. Willie in the evening. That's right. Your boy and mine, D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. What's up, my man?
Doing great out here in these streams, my man. Another great Monday. You know, a little bit of a slow start for us today getting on the air, but your boy is on PTO today, so we got a little bit of extra cushiony time today to play around with some things. We got a lot to talk about from this past weekend, and yes, there is a new name that is ready to be launched when the name is changed, but we will announce that when we get to that moment. Just happy to be here with you yet again, my man.
Same. I'm happy to be with you too as well, man. Mickey, it's good to see you again. Good morning, my brother. And of course, it's always good to see you, Dante. We'll definitely touch on your Eagles. And sorry about your Seahawks, Mick, but it just goes how it goes.
I almost had an aneurysm yesterday too with my team, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna have some choice words about both our teams in opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. All buys are gone. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. All NFL buys are gone. That's right. No more buys for this year, except for the number one seeds in the NFC and the AFC come playoff time. But every team has done their regular season buys, so everybody is on a clean slate. And I really wish we could talk about last Monday night's game, but I'll do it at another time. We'll touch on the Sunday games starting. Oh, good Lord. With this bowling shoe ugly game. The Kansas City Chiefs, they went to Northeastern Ohio to play near the Mistake by the Lake. Thank you, John Facenda. And the Cleveland Browns. And I think when he said that it was about the stadium, not the new stadium, but the old stadium. Now we can actually say that about the franchise because they are the Mistake by the Lake now. And they looked at in the 21-7 beatdown they took at the hands of the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes looked as ugly as the Browns did. 19 of 38, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 14 yards on 2 carries. He also tweaked his ankle and was out of the game. Something tells me it was a precautionary thing because I did see him walk around at the end. Uh, on defense, George Karlaftis, 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. He led the way as the Chiefs defense gave you 5 sacks and 5 turnovers. Oh, we'll touch on a couple of them in a minute. Jameis Winston, 16 of 25, 146 yards, and let me see, an interception. No, 2 interceptions. No, 3 interceptions. That's right. And his replacement, and yes, he did get pulled, coach's decision, after also having near 2 yards on 2 carries by Dorian Thompson Robinson, and he also threw an interception. So you had Jaden Hicks of the Chiefs, Brian Cook, Nick Bolton, and Trent McDuffie all suited up with INTs. But the Browns did do some damage on offense. Jerome Ford, 7 carries, 84 yards, and the lone touchdown for the Browns. He also had 2 receptions for 20 yards. And Jerry Jeudy, 11 receptions, 108 yards, and a couple of drops in that game. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. That's so crass of me. But he did drop a couple passes. Your thoughts on this debacle of a game?
At least the streak of one possession games for the Chiefs are kind of over. We could stop talking about that. I mean, because through the first quarter, when the first quarter ended, I thought there was still a chance we're going to talk about it again. I said, if we have to go through this with the Browns, there is no way this team is not only going to win a Super Bowl, but even get close to sniffing it if you have to win a game against this Browns team by one possession. Because even though this Chiefs team is a completely different team than what we were used to seeing of years late, they're still finding ways to win games. But you shouldn't have to find ways to win a game against the Cleveland mother, father, and Browns there, Cole. I mean, that's the way I was feeling after one quarter. Going into halftime, finally they were up by 2 touchdowns. But, you know, there wasn't much scoring at all in the third quarter. I mean, in the fourth quarter at all. Third quarter, they did score. But, you know, they were up 21-0 before the Browns actually scored. And it was on a Jerome Ford 62-yard run. So there was nothing exciting at all by this Browns team. Very dismal, a little bit of a win to even be up by 3 scores for the Chiefs. But they're still finding ways to win. I mean, good on them. At this point, they're 13-1, still the best record in the entire NFL, especially now when you look at the Lions losing yesterday to the Bills. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But with this in general, it still says a lot for you to even reach the number 1 spot after 14 games in the season. But they're doing it in an ugly fashion and probably one of the ugliest 13-1 teams I've ever seen at this point in the year.
You echoed just about every single thing that I was thinking. Yes, I'm glad that this was not another one possession game, because I know we would have ad nauseum have heard this Chiefs team is serious because they can't take care of a 3-11 Browns team, and they can't beat them by double digits. How can they not beat this team by double digits? But we expect them to be a Super Bowl champion. But yes, thankfully, that talk is not going to be had. But as you mentioned, best record in the game, 13-1. And now all they need to do is, if I'm mistaken, 2 wins out of the last 3, and they will have home field advantage. That is if the Bills, which I don't think they will, because if I'm mistaken, I think their last 3 games are 2 Patriots games and a Jets game. If they lose one of those 3, then maybe it would happen sooner. But this actually might have to come down to the very last week for the Chiefs to secure home field. But they're 13-1 as of right now.
They just had to win 3 out of 4 final games, and they've done one of those 3 now. So they got it, like you said, pretty much win 2 out of 3. And you said the Patriots are on their plate. That's an easy win. So, yeah, I think they're going to wrap this thing up for the number 1 seed. But the Bills are giving them a hard time at least.
Yeah, they're giving them a run for their money. But, yeah, congrats to the Chiefs and to the Browns, who officially said that Deshaun Watson will be their starting quarterback in 2025. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. Charlie. The hits just keep on coming. All right, now to the Browns rival, the Bengals. They traveled to where I am, Nashville, to play the Titans, and the Bengals made me happy, which means that the Titans took yet another loss. This time to the tune of 37-27. Joe Burrow, who, if he was actually playing on a team that wasn't 6-8, would be either an MVP candidate or an MVP frontrunner. But he had really a bad game for him. 26-37, 271 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he also had 3 turnovers, 2 by interception, 1 by fumble. Chase Brown, who's becoming a bigger chip to the arsenal of this explosive offense of the Bengals, carried the ball 25 times for 97 yards. He had a rushing touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown on 16 yards and 3 receptions. Jamar Chase, he paced away receptions-wise with 9 receptions. He had 94 yards. T. Higgins, 5 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. And I mentioned those 2 interceptions. Daryl Worley of the Titans and Luke Gifford of the Titans gave you those 2. Now, to the gift that keeps on giving on the other side of the ball, and Will Levis, 8-12, 89 yards, 2 carries, no yards, a fumble, and not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. That's right. The gift that keeps on giving gave the Bengals 4 turnovers. Got pulled for Mason Rudolph. Decent game. 21 of 26, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also threw a pick. So to the Bengals, shout out to Geno Stone, Cam Taylor-Britt, Josh Newton, and Mike Hilton. Each of them had picks of both Levis and Rudolph. Rudolph also had 2 carries for 14 yards. The best receiver on the team was Ty J. Spears. Yes, you heard me correctly. Ty J. Spears, the backup running back. 4 carries, 5 yards, and a touchdown rushing. But he also had 6 receptions for 87 yards and a receiving touchdown. Your thoughts on a interesting game, but the Bengals controlled it all throughout.
I do have to say there was one moment where I was totally
surprised, motherfucker.
And I was surprised when, as bad as he's been this year, Will Levis, as bad as he's been, I mean, he's been a snowflake of the week pick multiple times, whether by yourself or me throughout this season. You still play so bad at those moments, you didn't think it could get any worse. It got worse. You got replaced by a racist yesterday. You got replaced by a racist. That is what happened in this game. And then what happened after that? He sucked even more, too, because he threw an interception, but yet he did throw 2 touchdowns, and he only had 5 incompletions out of 26 attempts. But Will Levis had 8 completions on 12 attempts, and 3 of those 4 incompletions were interceptions. Okay.
Those 4 picks.
Yes. It's like that is the perfect nickname that you have given him about the gift that just keeps on giving. As we are at that time, I mean, we are just a little over a week away from Christmas. Because next week, when we're here next Monday, will be the day before the eve of Christmas. And we will be potentially talking about, at that point, another gift that keeps on giving by him gifting the other team wins. Because all he's doing with his team is gifting them. Titans might be Titans might be an even close to 500 team.
See, that made my week there.
and the Titans might even be close to a 500 team or a 9-8 team if they didn't have somebody playing like this. Okay. He is playing absolutely terrible, in the words of Charles Barkley. Now, Beyond the Racist, that actually sounds like a documentary, Beyond the Racist. Back to the game. Back to the game. All right. Yes, your point that you bring up with Joe Burrow, that he could be an MVP candidate if he was on a better team. If Burrow was on the Bills, he'd be an MVP candidate. If Burrow was If I don't want to say if he was on the Chiefs, because the Chiefs' struggles are beyond the quarterback position, even
Right.
though Mahomes has been struggling this year, because you got to look at the amount of interceptions he's thrown in comparison to other times when you're at this point in the year. He usually
you and
doesn't
I
even
hear
have
about
double
that.
digit.
Yeah.
At this point in the year, usually he doesn't have double-digit interceptions, but he's been at that point for several weeks now, with that being Mahomes. So, but I still don't want to put all the blame on him, because there's multiple factors that are why they're struggling, but still 13-1. I think that Burrow on the Bills, Burrow on the Cowboys, and there's several other teams that he would be playing lights out. Although Josh Allen proved in that game against the Lions, there are a whole lot more volumes to speak on this Bills team than just that position. But we'll get to that here in a little bit. Right here with the Bengals and this team right here, formerly known as the Oilers, that you hate the fact that they have relocated from there to Tennessee as the Titans, as do I. At least you have this to hang your hat on. They're not good. And they're not going to ever be good enough to resurrect that name in the Oilers. And they have secured their own identity as a team that sucks beyond the move. So you don't have to worry about that ever coming back like other people are worried about the name Redskins coming back to Washington. And yes, I will say it, because there are petitions, and eventually Cole will have to go back to saying the slur. But when it comes to the Titans,
that's right,
they have no hope. And you and I can continue to smile on this Monday as we get closer to Christmas. They keep giving us gifts, the gift that keeps on giving us joy.
Oh my. And it is joyful whenever I see Will Levis give another interception to the opposing team. What's going to suck, though, is the Texans have to come here for the last game of the season, and they may whip out the Oilers uniforms, but no, they don't at all. Woosah. The Titans, they dropped to 3-11, and thank you to Jaguars last week for knocking them out the playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, the Bengals, although their chances are slim, they still are there at 6-8. So, well, they're still fighting. Let's see how far they can go.
Have a better chance than any 6-8 team in the NFC, because the NFC is the better conference right now.
I agree. 100%. I agree with that. Now, speaking of the NFC, we'll go there for this matchup, the Superdome, where the Saints, they hosted the Commanders. The Commanders had if I'm not mistaken, a 20-10 lead, but they almost blew it. They did not. They did not, though. They held on, and they beat the Saints 20-19. Jaden Daniels, 25-31, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 11 carries for 66 yards. Put a pin on that for a moment. Brian Robinson, he had a decent all-around game, 21 carries, 65 yards, 3 receptions for 22. On defense, you had Mike Saint Verstill giving you another pick. Greg Joseph, 2 of 3 from field goal range. And then you get to the Saints. Spencer Rattler, 10 of 21, 135 yards, and a touchdown. Good Lord, it was just brutal for them. But there was two other, well, I should say it was one other quarterback, and you had a position player throw a pass that was complete. And the Saints, they had 176 in total passing yards. You had Cameron Jordan on defense for the Saints, 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. And then you had Chase Young. For those, of course, my partner knows who he is. I know who he is. For those who don't, the Washington area native got a chance to play not just his home team, but his former team. And he got down and got busy. 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks of his own. And those 2 led the way for the Saints to get 11 tackles for losses. And Jaden Daniels was put to the turf 8 times. That offensive line needs to do a better job, and maybe Jaden Daniels probably needs to do a better job of getting rid of the ball sooner, but I digress. Blake Grupe, he had 2 of 2 from field goal range, long from 51. So your thoughts on this, in my opinion, uneven performance by the Commanders, even though it was a W?
I'm glad we had a little extra time this morning so that way I could get my words professional. Because if this show would have been right after the game yesterday, I would not have been professional whatsoever. A TV almost got broken. A phone almost got decimated. A lot was happening in this afternoon at the Willie household. Now, right here and now, when it comes to this game, we were talking about a couple weeks ago. I was talking smack about Spencer Rattler, about how he looked rattled in said game. Then he was rattled so much that they had turned to Jake Haener to start this game. Well, going into halftime, it was not looking pretty at all. So they turned back to Spencer, the Fro Rattler, who came back out there and started slinging the rock. They even had a touchdown pass from a receiver who couldn't even muster a catch in the game, but he went 1 for 1 passing for 21 yards and a touchdown. But Jake Haener,
That's correct.
40% completion passes on this day and had no touchdowns, yet an interception. Looked absolutely like the number 3 dumpster pelican of the season. But right here and now, Spencer Rattler came in, completed just under half of his passes and did have a touchdown. Alvin Kamara, though, there's been at the beginning of the season, there was some bursts of Alvin Kamara of the past.
Right.
And, as we've gone throughout the season, we've seen how much the wear and tear has done and taken a toll on him because, yesterday he was only 5 of 12. 5 rushes for 12 yards before he went out with another injury yet again. Yesterday was the day of multiple injuries throughout multiple teams that could have an impact on the trajectory of the rest of the season. Now, when it comes to the Saints, unless they won this game against the Commanders, their season is pretty much over. I mean, you're going to finish 8-9 at best at this point. And yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made the playoffs at that kind of record last year. But the way the NFC is shaped up this year, nobody's winning the division with an 8-9 record. I'm sorry. Not even the South. Okay. It's not happening. So
no,
right here now, it was a big win for the Commanders because, with what happened with the Eagles, they're 3 games out from the division. And, unless they beat the Eagles and the Eagles lose the rest of their games for the rest of the year, and they would have to beat them decisively this upcoming week, there's no way they're winning the division, I believe, at this point. That's just my belief. You'd have to win the next 3 games. The Eagles would have to lose the next 3 and decisively, and you would have to beat them decisively at home this time. I don't think it's happening. So this was a big win. When the NFC between the 2 conferences is the toughest conference to get wild card spots, in my opinion, because there's not going to be an 8-9 or a 9-8 number 7 wild card team this year, which we don't see that often, to where you're going to have to get double-digit wins to get a wild card spot. That goes to show how tough the conference is and how tough it was of a road to get there. And, that Hail Mary game spoke volumes, for keeping this season alive because they were looking very good at that point, but they kind of struggled. They were 1-2 coming into this game against the Saints. The Commanders were. They were 1-2. Right. They're still now 2-2 in their past 4 games. They still have a lot of work to do, not only for the rest of the year to get to the playoffs, but in my opinion, beyond the way whatever happens in the playoffs or doesn't if they don't make it, they still have a lot of work to do this offseason. The big thing, though, that saved some of their work for this offseason that you finally got to start pay dividends was Marshawn Lattimore finally getting in the game. Again, it was against his former team.
Against
the Saints. I mean, I was talking about that on Total Football Talk Extra the other day, as well as on Commander's Gridiron Report. The main topic for that was that Marshawn Lattimore was finally getting his opportunity to play. And over 30 snaps that he was in the game for, he didn't have any targets. they stayed away from him. They didn't throw the ball in his area. They were scared to throw the ball in his direction. So he made an immediate impact in this game, even though they only won by 1 point. At least that part in the secondary, he made a difference. It wasn't until some miscues late in the fourth quarter that really brought the Saints back into it. Because when you really look at this game overall, the Commanders should have won decisively from the start.
From the jump.
They were up 14-0 at halftime. They were up 17-0 into the third quarter after they got the ball back at halftime on a Greg Joseph kick. But multiple factors did affect why this game happened to go as late as it did with it being as close. Greg Joseph missed a very key field goal. For one, Jaden Daniels still was very, very good with the football as far as not turning it over, but they did outside of him, they did have some problems establishing the run with Brian Robinson, because even though he had 21 carries on the day, he only had 65 yards, averaging 3 yards per carry. So if it wasn't for JD picking up the slack with 6 yards per run on 11 attempts, they would have struggled. Terry McLaurin there were also some deep passes that they were trying to go for the home run on, because up until the fourth quarter, Jaden Daniels only had like 2 incompletions the entire game. A lot of those 6 incompletions that he had, 4 of them came in the fourth quarter, and 3 of them came on deep passes to Terry McLaurin. I was watching him there, and it was like right in his breadbasket, but he dropped it. And the other one was like just a little bit too far beyond his fingertips. But the thing I like about that is they're taking these shots now, and they've connected on these shots at different points in the year. But the more opportunities you have to take these shots, the more chemistry you're going to build. I was speaking highly about the KJ Osborne pickup the other day. Of course, he didn't get into the game, but I think that was a move that's going to help them out in weeks 17 and 18, and potentially you make the playoffs in the first or second round, because I don't see you going beyond the division game in the second round. So
I know Terry McLaurin is thanking the organization to pick him up.
Absolutely. So I have a feeling they make the playoffs. They can win the wild card round.
I agree. They can.
That's a good boost of momentum for the offseason. But right here and now, you had to take those shots. You had to see what you've got. But unfortunately, you let the Saints hang around a little too long. And with the caliber of weapons that they have, there was no excuse for them to come back the way that they did. I think that the way that this game ended, we need to throw a little bit more shade on the defense as far as not their secondary. They were doing well, but Luvu didn't play as well as he had been in the past few weeks. And the defensive front was giving him a little bit too much time in the pocket, in the back. Like Spencer Rattler had way too much time. The defensive front on the Commanders was not putting enough pressure on them. So looking at the tape, I hope they look at it enough and look back on this moment right here when they're getting ready for a playoff run. This is what not to do if you want to stay alive in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned Marshawn Lattimore. Commanders fan, not you, obviously, but Commanders fan came this close to being considered something for later in the program, because I actually did hear a take of, we picked up Marshawn Lattimore. He played, and he didn't do anything. Moron! They did not even go to his side of the field. He shut down half of a field. What are you talking about? He didn't do anything. This alone allowed a defense to only operate on one half of the field. What are you talking about? He didn't do anything. Oh, Lord. When I heard that moronic take, I had to stifle my laughter hard, man. I was like, come on, really? This is why they got him for. This is what they got him for. And he actually, in this game, played a huge role in this victory. And like you said, 30 snaps, 0 targets in his direction. So he did his job. But yeah, congratulations to the Commanders. And I agree with you. It's going to take double-digit wins for them, for any team in the NFC to actually secure a wild card spot, because you have teams like the Vikings, who they're going for their 12th win tonight. You have
Into the 5th seed.
Yeah, and they're in the 5th seed right now. They're in the 5th seed. They're going for their 12th win tonight. They're the 5th seed. So they have 11 wins at current. They'll probably have 12 because they'll be playing the Bears at home tonight. You have the Packers, who got their 10th win, and we'll talk about that win last night. And you have your Commanders, who they notched their 9th win. So it's going to have to take at least 11, I think. Forget 10. I think it's going to take 11 wins to actually secure. And your team at 9-5 is the 7th seed. And I'm thinking, whew, man, you got to really do your thing to actually get a wild card spot in the NFC.
I think 10 can secure the 7.
Okay? No. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say.
But it's going to take like 11, maybe 12 wins to secure the 5th and the 6th seeds. I mean, because the Lions still have to face the Vikings.
They close their season against them. So yeah, at home, but they close the season against them. Yeah,
the Vikings could beat the Lions in Week 18 and potentially go from 5-1.
5-1.
That would be insane.
And the reverse would happen. Yeah, if that happened. Yeah,
and be one of the biggest collapses of the season in the Lions' eyes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they would go all this time, lose to the Bills, potentially lose one more game, and then lose to the Vikings and go from 1-5, that would be nuts.
Yeah. Oh, and I know this is we're reviewing Week 15. I'll say it now. The last game of the season is just the one you mentioned, Vikings at Lions. That's probably going to be the one for the number 1 seed in the NFC, and the loser gets the number 5. That's how I think it's going to be. And if so, that's going to be a Titanic of a game, because when they played in Minneapolis, it was great. But we're not talking about the Lions nor the Vikings. We're talking about the Commanders. They're 9-5, and I agree with you. One more win, they will secure a playoff spot, because there isn't a team that I believe under them that's going to get the 10 wins. None. I don't think any of those 10. Any of those teams going to get the 10. We'll run through the laundry list of them, but yeah. With all that being said, I think you should be happy that your Commanders are this close to winning getting a playoff spot. And heck, they beat the Eagles. The NFC East might not be out of the question. But then again, the Eagles do host the Cowboys. Jeez.
Not holding my breath.
Oh, doggone, they end their season playing the Giants? Jeez, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to spoil your fun there. But speaking of the Giants, we go to the Meadowlands, where they hosted the Ravens. It's what even competition. I mean, the Giants just got steamrolled 35-14 off of the arm of one Lamar Jackson, who simply could not miss. 21-25, 290 yards, and 5 touchdown passes. Not 5 total touchdowns, 5 touchdown passes. He also had 6 carries for 65 yards. The only mistake he made was a thank you, perfectly timed. It was a mixed bag of the rushing attack for the Ravens. No big time effort. May have had like 65 yards from Henry. Think like 50 yards from Justice, but it wasn't really huge. But as a total, they got 170 yards as a team on the ground. Through the air, Rashad Bateman, 3 receptions, 80 yards. He received 2 of those 5 Lamar Jackson touchdowns. On defense, they were not to be outdone. Darius Washington, he gave you a pick, but it wasn't of Tommy DeVito, who was 10 of 13, 68 yards, and he had a carry for no yards. That pick came off the arm of Tim Boyle, who was 12 of 24, 123 yards. He had a touchdown and that Darius Washington pick. He also had a carry for -1 yard. The bright spot of the Giants, the embattled wide receiver Malik Neighbors, 10 receptions, 82 yards, and the first touchdown reception in 3 months. That's right. The last time he had a touchdown reception was in week 3. So your thoughts, sir, on the Ravens beating down the Giants?
Well, I mean, I knew from the start when Justice Hill had that 61-yard kickoff return for a touchdown that this game was definitely not going to it was not going to be a pretty game, especially when you think of they're playing the Giants, and Drew Lock was so bad they didn't even let him suit up.
No.
So it's sad, but looking at this game for what it is, I'm kind of concerned about the Ravens a little bit. The fact that they had to go backwards and have Lamar Jackson run for just 2 more yards than Derrick Henry. I mean, 2 yards less than Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry had 67 yards on the day on 14 carries, and Lamar has 65 on just 6 carries, averaging 6 more yards per carry than Derrick Henry. That's not going to last much longer. You got to feed your running back the ball, and this offense needs to get him more lanes open to run the ball, because now Saquon has passed you or surpassed you as the MVP candidate. And this is something that when Derrick Henry was starting the year, the first 8 to 10 games, he was rushing for the title of MVP of this league.
Yes, he was.
Especially when you look at what Saquon's been doing throughout this year, and the fact that the Eagles have been winning the way they have on the back of Saquon for the most part, because Jalen Hurts has been totally inconsistent throughout this year. He hasn't played inept like Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, he hasn't played inept. All right, we'll get to that here shortly. I'm waiting to get to Tua here in a little bit. You know it, and I know I got a special picture for him here in a little bit. All right, a special one, right here and now. When it comes to this situation for the Ravens, I'd be concerned if I were a Ravens fan. I'd be concerned to volley it up like a volleyball for you. I'd be concerned if I was a Lamar Jackson fan right now, but I'll save that for you for later. But right here and now, when it comes to this team, if it wasn't for Justice Hill running that 61-yard kickoff, if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson throwing the 5 touchdowns, they'd be in trouble because they could not get things going and established through Derrick Henry. And this offense, when running through Derrick Henry, I feel like can look more dominant than what they did. You should have beat this Giants team by more than just 3 touchdowns. You should have beat them by the 5 touchdowns that Lamar Jackson scored for you in this game. Okay. That should have been the difference maker in this. You should have won by 35 points, not just have scored 35 points. So looking at that for what it is, you got to get Mark Andrews going a little bit more. 2 catches for 24 yards is not good enough, in my opinion, for the tight end of caliber that he is, and to have a touchdown. Isaiah Likely, who's supposed to be like him 2.0 with 2 catches for 17 yards, is not good enough, in my opinion. Nelson Aguilar, we already know why he is the way he is, because he's shipped around to multiple teams. Zay Flowers did okay. Rashad Bateman did okay. And Justice Hill, of course, as your running back in doing the receiving duties, did okay. But I expect more out of the tight ends. I expect more out of the running back. And it all starts with Lamar Jackson and his quest to having to run the ball. If your running back is not getting fed properly, you shouldn't be running the ball as much as you were. Even though 6 attempts is a small amount of attempts when you compare him to Lamar's average of the past. He is reducing his load a little bit. But I still feel like when you have the caliber of running back that you do with Derrick Henry, you see the quest that he was on throughout the first 10 to 12 games. And now you're here at game 14. You need to do a better job of feeding him, because if it wasn't for the team that you were playing against in this matchup, if you would have played against a good team, you would have played against the Steelers. You would have played against the Bills. You would have played against even the Chiefs. As much as they are struggling, I don't think you would have won this game. I just don't, and you wouldn't have had 5 touchdowns by Lamar Jackson.
No.
And you historically throughout this year haven't really played that well if Derrick Henry hasn't had 75 plus yards in a game. So putting all that together, you got to improve that, just like the other games that we've talked about. You can't just look at the wins and give them all praise. You got to talk about the constructive criticism too. And they have to do a better job at establishing the run outside of Lamar, and do a better job of establishing it with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill consistently as the 1-2 punch, and not Henry and Lamar Jackson.
This is why I love you. This is why I love you. I kid you not, sir. In a different platform, I actually said this yesterday. This is my proclamation. I'll put it out there on air. I said the Ravens will not make it to the Super Bowl because they ain't serious. They're not serious. Who said it in the chat? Sick. Okay, why did you sign Derrick Henry in the first place if you're going to have Lamar Jackson take other mountain and run the ball too? You got him for a reason. Feed the beast. You said it. Feed the beast. And it's not just that he gets carries. It's to give forth an attitude of, we're going to line up, we're going to punch you in the mouth, and there isn't a thing you can do about it. But there's a lot of things that people could do about it with Lamar Jackson just winging the ball 40, 50 yards downfield. And the point that my partner made, and I did not mention that to this independent group, to the tight ends, right? Eat. Let the beast eat. 14 carries, and it's not enough. Not even close to enough. No. That was I didn't even care about any of the stat. I just saw that. I saw 14 in the carries department for Derrick Henry. I was like, okay, so yeah, 21-point victory, but this still sucks because this does not give you the identity that you want to have, which is, okay, when we see that purple and black step onto the field, we got to get ready to get our mouths punched in. I don't feel that with the Ravens. That's what you're supposed to have. But I don't feel that for them because they think, well, Lamar Jackson's Superman. Now, I'll touch on that in a greater detail later. However, congratulations to the Ravens. They are 9-5, and it looks like a playoff bid is close, and maybe the AFC North is not out of the question. Well, they probably have the Eagles to thank for that, but yes. I agree with you, though, man. I'm not impressed with the Ravens either. In fact, I'm upset with them because this was a game they should have asserted their authority and said, Giants, you pittance of a team, you're nothing. No, not even this 21-point victory makes me feel that way. But well, the Giants, they fall to 2-12 now. Whoo! Things are looking bleak in the Meadowlands. Goodness gracious. But the Ravens, they improved to 9-5. Oh, good Lord. Now down to Charlotte, where we see the Panthers entertaining playing games. The Cowboys came to town. They beat the Panthers 30-14. And we're going to probably hear some of these ignoramuses say, we're going to Super Bowl again. And it's been wonderful because it's been quiet from that. Cooper Rush, 18-29, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 carries for 5 yards, and the lone mistake he made, he coughed it up once. Rico Dowdle. Now, he had 25 carries for 149 yards, but I want to say this to Cowboys fan. They were playing the Panthers. Don't expect him to have that type of total against them and the 100-plus yard game he had last Monday night. 2 poorest defensive teams. Now, if he pulls that against a team like, say, the Eagles, which you'll be playing soon, then come back and talk to me. Until then, shut up. But the Cowboys offense did amass 211 yards on the ground. CeeDee Lamb led the way reception-wise, 9 receptions, 116 yards. He did have a touchdown. On defense, Micah Parsons walking off the field early one game, being the guy this game. 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits. And he led the way for the Cowboys defense. He had 2 of the Cowboys' 6 sacks, along with the 10 quarterback hits of one poor Bryce Young. We'll get to him in a moment. Israel Mukwami, he had a pick. Eric Kendricks, he also had a pick. Brandon Aubrey, that long leg of his, he did miss a field goal, but he was 3 or 4 with a long of 52 yards. Now we'll get to Bryce Young. 19 to 28, 219 yards, and those 2 picks, along with the touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 12 yards on a rushing touchdown, and not just 2 interceptions, but he also had 2 fumbles. Jalen Coker on the air, 4 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Your thoughts on this game? That the Cowboys, are they back? No. 30 to 14 victory over the Panthers.
Watching this game, I wanted to stab myself in the eye of the square. It was bad. It was very, very bad. I was looking up at the sky at one moment, and I was even contemplating saying the words "take me home" because this is not fun to watch anymore. I do not want to watch this because looking at this game, looking at this game, they didn't score it all in the first quarter. It was a 0-0 contest. And then CD Lamb saved us from our misery by scoring a mother-fathering touchdown along with a Brandon Aubrey 52-yard field goal with 4 minutes left to take a 10-0 lead. But it's not over yet because right before halftime, you said it yourself, and he put some points on the board. Jalen Coker looked like he took a little bit as he was running really, really fast for an 83-yard field goal. Oh, yeah, he was skiing it up, running up and down that sideline. 83-yard touchdown with an Eddie Pinheiro kick. 31 seconds left in the game. It gave the Panthers fans some hope, or a halftime of using his product, because that's what happened during halftime. They got a little too happy coming back out of there. 10-7 game. Now, in the third quarter, the Cowboys would take away all the hope from the Panthers, and they would be up 24-7 at the end of third quarter, and they didn't look back. Now, people look at this game 30-14 and think, oh, the Panthers were close. They were never in it.
No.
Because every time they scored, they were down by double-digit points every single time. Okay? So this is the same equivalent type of a win as the Ravens beating down on the Giants, because the Panthers are not much better. They are a little bit better, but let's look at the problems of why the Panthers couldn't win this game. They couldn't get the run established with Chuba Hubbard. Okay, there was no way they were getting it done. 10 carries for 32 yards just doesn't work.
Not enough.
Mr. Coker over there tweaking himself down the sideline. He had 110 yards, but it took that 83-yard tweak of a play to get him to 110 yards. Bryce Young, although he's had some success this year throughout the 3 wins that they have, just the 2 turnovers definitely hurt you pretty bad in this game. And had you not turned the ball over, you probably would have had a chance to upset the Cowboys. But really, if you beat the Cowboys, is it just as much of an upset as if they beat you? I don't think so. So looking at it for what it is, there's some things to take away from this game. The big thing is the Panthers are just as bad as they were last week and will more than likely have a top 5 pick yet again in this NFL draft in 2025.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Yes, to your point, yes, the Panthers, they are a hair better record-wise than the Giants, even beating them early this year as well. They are 3-11. The Cowboys, we're going to Super Bowl Cowboys, no. They improved to 6-8. And go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I do want to give them a shout-out, though, for what they're doing with Rico Dowdle. Because he's come out of nowhere this year and has had several games now that he has played very, very well. I mean, when you look at the fact that this man had 25 carries in the game for 149 yards and didn't get a touchdown, that's sad. It's more sad on the offense of the Cowboys and the play calling duties by this team to not get him in the end zone, because this man deserved it 5 carries ago when he got to 25 carries, 149 yards. It's sad to see talent wasted like that when you look at production like that for these teams that don't deserve to have a player of that caliber.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't award him. Yeah. But yeah, Dowdle's actually had 2 pretty good games. He had over 100 yards against the Bengals last Monday. So yeah, I mean, he's had a pretty good run as of late. And I'm not crapping on Dowdle because it looks like he wants it. It's just that however they strategize for him with better teams than the Panthers and the Bengals defensively, it's just horrible. Oh, I heard this too, Dante. So I heard from Cowboys fan that Cooper Rush looked better than Dak. You said, please hit the lab button. I most certainly will. Charlie Murphy, do the honors, please, sir.
I'm gonna throw a little bit of
Oh, my brother, testify.
straight up. That was gold, brother.
That was. I 100% agree with you too, Dante. That's just hilarious. But the and we were talking about this earlier. The Cowboys, they improved to 6-8. They're one of those teams that are looking far up at the Commanders because they want their spot, and they hope that the game that they play in Arlington between themselves and the Commanders is for that number 7 seed. I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, I think the Cowboys will be eliminated before it happens. Look at the Commanders foam sticker just coming up. And actually, good game, entertaining game between 3 and 10 clubs. Yes, right. The Jets went to Duval to play the Jaguars. Both teams came into the game at 3 and 10. And it was actually nip and tuck to the end when the Jets scored a touchdown late to give you the final score of 32-25. Aaron Rodgers, uneven performance. Yes, although he threw for almost 300 yards in this game, it still was an uneven performance. 16 of 30, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 45 yards on 6 carries. Defensively, you had Jalen Mills with a pick and Sauce Gardner with a pick. You had Devontae Adams, who basically was the offensive star of the game. 9 receptions, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Welcome to New York officially now, Devontae. I hope you like how horrible and how garbage the Jets are, even with the quarterback. Now, for the Jaguars, you have Mac Jones, of course, who's subbing for a concussed Trevor Lawrence. 31 of 46, 294 yards. He did have those 2 picks I mentioned. But he also threw for 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 carries for 29 yards. Travis Etienne, good all around. Not great, but good. 14 carries, 65 yards on the ground, 4 receptions for 20 yards in the air. Brian Thomas Jr., who seems to be the only bright spot, really, for the whole team, and I am including Tavon Austin with this, because we're not Trevor Walker with this because we're not hearing much from him either. 10 receptions, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Oh, and you have Cam Little, who made all 4 of his field goal attempts. Your thoughts on the Jets-Jaguars game?
Brian Robinson Jr. is making a strong case that he deserves to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year.
Offensive Rookie Year?
Yeah, because of what he has done. He's been the only real highlight for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. And even when they were in the discussion very briefly of being able to make a comeback, he was part of it. They're part of the reason why they were in that discussion. Now, I want to say this is the sad thing about the Jaguars defense and why they are the number 32 defense in the league.
That is sad.
You let Aaron Rodgers be the leading rusher against your team.
Isn't that something?
6 carries for 45 yards against the number 25 defense. We were just throwing shade, or at least I was last week, about the fact that old Levis couldn't even score a touchdown on the number 32 ranked defense, which is why he was my dumpster Pelican player of the week, a.k.a. the snowflake of the week last week. But right here and now, looking at this game for what it was, I know there's people that are excited for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to have the connection that they did yet again for the first true time this year. Finally turning back the clock of almost a decade from when we've seen some type of performance like this between the two of them on the same team, because Adams 9 receptions, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's like top tier caliber wide receiver status. It's like the first time he really earned his game check in a while. Like it truly is. And Aaron Rodgers threw for a little less than 300 yards. barely under 300 yards, but 3 touchdowns. And the fact that he led the team in 2 categories, he deserves to win this game, in my opinion. Do they have any hope for a good end of the season? The only way they could is if they won 3 more games, ended on a 4-game winning streak, and finished 7-10. At that point, I feel like that would be a success compared to how you started the year and all the drama and stuff that happened throughout the year. But for what it is, the big thing that's really hurt them this year is the fact that they have had little to no running game at all, especially when you look at the fact that Breece Hall is still with this team.
That's
and
ridiculous.
9 carries for 30 yards. Yeah, he got in the end zone for a touchdown, but they have been struggling in this department all season. And the reason why through 14 games is their offensive line has been absolutely terrible.
Geez.
You thought when it couldn't get any worse from last year, it did. And no matter who you have at quarterback, I don't care if you have the most mobile of quarterbacks. Michael Vick in his prime. Michael Vick in his prime wouldn't be able to do anything with this team. Okay.
Wow.
Cam Newton in his prime wouldn't have been able to do anything with this team. Wouldn't have been able to escape the pressure from the other side. And thank goodness JD is on my team and not on this team, because he wouldn't be able to have the type of rookie season that he is having on a team like this, because even the Commanders with the trash offensive line that they had last year made moves during the offseason to complement changes throughout the organization. Yes. And Sam Howell proved it. We'll get to him in a little bit. I don't jump this one. Even he wouldn't be able to do anything with this Jets team as he couldn't do anything with the Commanders team last year. This is a worse team than what he played on last year with the Commanders, because even they finished 4-13. They probably should have won less games. But here and now, the Jets will at least not finish any worse than the 4-13 Commanders last year. But Mac and Chi, I want to say something about him real quick before we get on with the subject. The interception that he threw, the second one at the very end of the game, they had a chance. Yeah. They had a chance to come back because it was a tie game. It was a tie game at this point. This was before the Jets scored their last touchdown. Okay. Throws it right to the defender. I mean, you couldn't have a more picture-perfect pass to the other team than what he did in this moment. Just steps back, plants his feet, has a stupid look on his face, and throws the ball right to the defender. Okay.
Why are you focus on his face before he throws the pass?
Because the only other person that I have seen with a dumber look on their face was Eli Manning in the past. Okay. And Dan Carlson when wearing that hat in the Snowflake of the Week picture from a few weeks back. That's the only 2 times where I have focused on the look of their face, but looking at the look at his face, it wasn't like the Michael Jordan with the tongue out part. That wasn't dumb. That was just how he played. He just had this look of, I drank stupid water and then threw this ball. And that's exactly what happened in this moment. And hopefully he can overcome that, because yes, he was one of the leading. He led the league in as far as passing yards in the game yesterday with 294 passing yards. But Aaron Rodgers ran the ball more than your other team, or ran the ball the most out of anybody on his team, and beat you at 40 years old. So 41 actually.
41 now. You turned 41 this month. Yeah.
So when was the last time did Tom Brady at 41 or beyond ever lead a game in rushing for his team? It's a quick. Can somebody look that up and turn a reality for us real quick? Even if we move on to another subject, I want to know: has anybody above the age of 41 led their team in rushing for a game like Aaron Rodgers did? And in the one, I don't think so. And I gotta say this: it's all because of that Mac and Chi interception at the end. So shout to Mac and Chi for handing the game over to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Ayahuasca and the Jets.
Oh my gosh. The Jets improved to 4-10, if you want to call it improve. The Jaguars, they dropped to 3-11. And if you all answer LeBron James, you need to be smacked.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers went to any Diddy parties.
Oh, nice one.
Or dressed up as a French maid. Oh, man.
Oh, that's a good one.
We need to do another in or out episode at some point soon so we could just have a reason to talk about LeBron.
Oh, Lord. Oh, that's funny. Now, unfortunately, it's time for me to stop laughing and focus on my team. Now, I should be happy, because with a win and a Colts loss in Denver, the Texans would become the AFC South champions for the second consecutive year. Well, the Texans did their part. They beat the Dolphins 20-12. But that offense was horrible. CJ Stroud. Oh, Lord. 18-26, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 6 carries for 4 yards and a lost fumble. Now, I probably should be like, oh, I'm happy. CJ Stroud, he only really made one mistake. He was okay with the ball. He didn't really make too many mistakes. The defense was cooking. The offense should be cooking even better. No, they did not. Danielle Hunter on the Texas defense, he had a pretty good game. 2 tackles for losses. He had a quarterback hit and a sack and a half. Kalen Bullock, he had a pick. Derek Stingley, he had not one but 2. And one of those interception returns, if I'm not mistaken, that was more yards that he gained in that one interception return than the Texans did rushing. Woosah. For the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, 29-40, 186 yards. He had a touchdown. He had, let me see, I did mention those 3 picks. One of Kellen Bullock, 2 to Derek Stingley. Oh, and he also coughed up the ball too. So 4 turnovers for Mr. Tagovailoa. Defensively, the Dolphins, they stood up. Sack Sealer. Tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits on sack and a half. Chop Robinson, he had also a tackle for loss. He had 4 quarterback hits and a sack and a half. The Dolphins defense, they once again proved that to the Texans brass, you need to step up that offensive line because they suck by putting Stroud to the ground 4 times. Not to be outdone, Jason Sanders, he was 2 of 2 for field goals with a long 55 yards, but he couldn't make one of those extra points. Your thoughts on the Texans beating the Dolphins?
This game altogether for both teams just was very underwhelming because neither one of them could establish the run, and it just really affected the entire flow of the game for both teams, no matter whether you pull for the Texans like yourself or if you're like our man
A Pizzle.
I was thinking of I almost said A Dizzle because it's been a minute since I talked to A Pizzle. I almost said A Dizzle, but I'm glad you threw in the Pizzle. A Pizzle. I know that he was probably looking at this game and was not happy with what he was seeing. Tua throwing 3 interceptions, having a lost fumble. He gave the game to the Texans because the Texans, it's like you said, their offense was very underwhelming. Even though CJ Stroud's still very similar to what Mahomes is doing, where they're not throwing for a lot of yards, but in these games where they're not throwing for a lot of yards, they're not really turning the ball over. Okay, so you can at least count your lucky stars on the fact that CJ Stroud is doing a job consistently. He's doing a consistent job of not turning the ball over, and probably in some cases a little bit better than Mahomes because Mahomes has double-digit turnovers. CJ Stroud has had some bad games here and there, but there's other teams out there where they can't buy a positive touchdown to interception ratio like what the Dolphins are experiencing right now when you have Tua just playing totally inept back there, okay? And I don't want to blame this on the concussions because there were moments, even if you go back to before he had the first of these 3 and 4 concussions since he became a professional, to run like he does and to make some of the moves like he does, it looks like he is checked out in the middle of the play. And when you look at these interceptions, when you look at the lost fumble that he had in this game, it's like, halfway through the play, he pressed the pause button on Madden 25 and just stood there. And then all of a sudden, it was like a little kid came in the room, pressed the start button again. You forgot you were stopped there in the middle of the pocket, and you got the expletive knocked out of you, or you just hit the A button real quick and you throw an interception. That's what it felt like to those of you who are playing the video game. And this is real time. This is real life. So, looking at this for what it is, the Dolphins have been struggling this year without Tua, and they've been struggling at points with him in games like these due to situations like this. Yes, he did throw and complete 29 of 40 passes. That usually generates something pretty decent, but it usually generates way more than 196 yards. When you look at the fact that CJ Stroud threw 14 less passes, completed 18 of 26, and only passed for 131, and still got one more touchdown than you. So, looking at that, I'd say that the key factor to this game right here as to why things didn't, at least the game didn't spread wide open beyond an 8-point difference, was that neither team could establish a running game, and that neither quarterback could really get a consistent flow of momentum within their passing attack either, because both of them threw for under 200 yards. Very underwhelming performance, yes, by your Houston Texans, but you still found a way to win. That's the important thing. You're still in the playoff hunt. You still are there. You're still going to get there. It's just a matter of seeding or a division win or whatever the case may be as to what your story ends with in the next 3 weeks. But you're still going, and the Dolphins are not, and that's all that matters after this game.
Thank you for the how can I say this, truthful and sobering reminder of what I was thinking, because I think I had to ask if I was being overly critical. Now, the Texas defense, I really don't have much of an issue. I do have some, but not much of an issue, especially in this game, because they were the ones who actually won this game. They won this game for the Texans, because you're right. The running game was not established for both sides of the ball, because I don't think Mixon got 30 yards on the ground, and I think a chain got 41. So, for the Dolphins. So, yeah, running was not going to happen. Running yards were going to come at a premium, obviously, in this game. So both defenses said, okay, the opposing quarterback is going to have to beat us with his arm, and the Texans won that battle because they forced Tagovailoa to make 4 mistakes, and like you said, Stroud only made 1. He only fumbled the ball once, but he didn't throw a pick. So he did play sort of Patrick Mahomes like as of late, minimize mistakes, be at home, being a game manager. And if people insultingly call me that, screw them. It's all about getting W's. So I'm with you on that. I just expect this offense to do much better than they have, and they have these moments where in spurts they look absolutely awesome, and then in other spurts they just look as though they're hapless. And this, to me, offensively throughout this game, they looked hapless. They looked terrible to me. But thankfully, the defense rose to the occasion, and they forced 4 turnovers from Tagovailoa. And you said that beautifully. The Texans, they improved to 9-5. After they won, they sat and they waited for the game indifferent between the Colts and the Broncos. And if it went their way, meaning if the Colts lost, that means that the Texans will become the AFC South champs. We'll touch on that on the next game. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, they took a huge hit in their playoff chase. They fall to 6-8, and that battle is going to be very difficult for them. Even though, like you said, it'll probably be easier for a team at 6-8 for them and the Bengals, who are also 6-8, to probably get that 7th seed. But it's going to be much tougher for both of them. But definitely for the Dolphins, it's going to be much tougher. Ooh, that was a huge loss for them. We touched on the early games. Now for the late Sunday games. And like I said, the Colts and the Broncos, that's what we'll touch on. They were in Mile High. My partner and I talked about this game early. Bo Nix was going to possibly be awarded a snowflake from one of us, but then he saw his defense woke up and played a little better. Not much, but a little better. The Broncos, they defeated the Colts 31-13, which that means the Texans are now your AFC South champs. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's either this game. I think it's this game that I think made the Steelers actually win a playoff spot too. So the Steelers, they clinched the playoff spot. The Texans, they win the AFC South. Bo Nix, 20 of 33, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ooh, and a Nick Cross, Zaire Franklin, and a Samuel Womack III interception. Yes, the Colts 8 defensively. They couldn't do a thing offensively. Nick's also got 23 yards on 8 carries. Aaron Jones, okay. 13 carries, 73 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 11. Patrick Surtain, defensively, he had a pick. Brandon Jones, he also had a pick of Anthony Richardson, who was 17 of 38, 172 yards. He had those 2 picks. He also carried the ball 7 times for 46 yards. And the Broncos defense, they were the stars of the game. 2 picks and 3 fumble recoveries. Jonathan Taylor, he had 22 carries, 407 yards, wasted performance right there. He also had a reception for 4 yards. He did lose the ball on a fumble. Taylor paced away to have the Colts, and of course Richardson as well, to have the Colts gain 149 yards on the ground. Your thoughts on the Broncos in Mile High putting the foot to the Colts?
They got lucky because the only way they put the foot to the Colts was with their defense because Bo Nix, throughout a good portion of the game, was just trying to give the game away to the Colts, is what it seemed like, because they were only winning by 1 single possession until late in the game, until the defense really turned it up in the second half. So I'm not going to go too far in depth with this game because I'm more disappointed that I can't have Bo Nix as my snowflake of the week because the way the defense was setting them up. Because when you and I were talking about it yesterday afternoon, I was like, I'm pretty sure Bo Nix is going to be my selection for snowflake of the week. But unfortunately, I had to revert to somebody else because they sucked even worse, and I have to recycle them as another snowflake of the week in the past. So because Bo Nix let me down, I'm not going to go too far in depth with this, but I will say that Sean Payton is getting it done with this team. And it goes to show that the management made the right move by bringing him in and also listening to his suggestions by getting rid of Russell Wilson and having total control of his team by bringing the pieces that he wants. Because even though Bo Nix made the moves that he made in disgust for me today, he has been a really good rookie throughout this season. And has been a solid pick worthy of a mid first round selection. And I think that this move right there for them in this draft is going to pay dividends for many years to come. You're going to have Sean Payton throughout the remainder of the 2020s. And I'm not saying that they're going to go to a Super Bowl and win like they did with Peyton 10 years ago, but they will at least be a team that you'll have to take seriously within the next year or two for quite some time after that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and for those who are probably going to be shaming Sean Payton, well, you let go of Russell Wilson. Look what he's doing now with the Steelers. Well,
he's a product of the system right now. That's all it is.
That's what I'm saying. Both things can be true. You can have someone that was not as good on one system flourish in another, and you can actually make the right move and say this person isn't a great fit. I think bring someone else who probably is, and then turns out he is. So yes, kudos to Sean Payton. He got the right guy in Bo Nix. He may not be wowing the people with stats, but as a rookie quarterback, I don't think you're supposed to wow him with stats. I think you're supposed to show competency at the position, and he shows enough competency at the position. I mean, heck, we're talking about a guy who is leading his team to a 9-5 record, and he's looking and he's saying, "Okay, the defense is the one driving the bus. I'm not gonna get in the way." And normally, veteran defenses like a QB to say, okay, I know my limitations. One of them is to not turn the ball over. So if I can be game manager, fine, I'll do that. Now, in this game, he failed in that regard because, I mean, we are talking about a game where they were down 30, at one point 13-7. So, yeah. And again, I agree with you. Yes, it was the defense of the Broncos that won the day for them. And as a Texans fan, I thank you, Denver. I appreciate you, Broncos. You made the Texans the AFC South champs for the second straight year. Appreciate that. Now, as for the Colts, they fall to 6-8. And yes, they are in that pool with the Dolphins and the Bengals. Currently, the Colts are the ones that would be the highest ranking 6-8 team. But they have to catch the Chargers, who are a little bit ahead of them. We'll touch on how they are a little later. But congratulations to the Broncos. I think one more win for them. Well, no, a couple wins for them. I think might do it. But for sure, I think they could probably get one and secure something. But I think two for sure will secure them a playoff spot. If they keep going, that defense is going to definitely help them out a lot. And they finished the season, I think, at home against the Chiefs. Ooh. But that might actually be a win for them. Now, one of the two games of this week, we go to South Philly where the Eagles hosted the Steelers. And Dante, I know, has a bright, wide smile on his face. He should, because the Eagles, they now, with this game, notched their franchise record 10th straight victory with a 27-13 victory over their cross-state rival. Or cross-state team. I don't even really consider Eagles and Steelers a rivalry, but I digress. Jalen Hurts, who has been incrementally throwing nothing, decided to show his wares. As the Steelers dared him to beat them, he did. 25-32, 290 yards, and 2 throwing touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown on 15 carries and 45 yards. His only mistake, though, he did one time, though. A.J. Brown, who looks like he's not having any issues, at least right now or anymore. With Jalen Hurts, I think I wouldn't be either. 8 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 11 receptions, 109 yards, and the other Jalen Hurts touchdown. Smith also had a carry for a yard. On the other end of things, you had Russell Wilson, 14-22, 128 yards and a touchdown. 4 carries, 13 yards. He also had a lost fumble. Just couldn't get that offense going. And unfortunately, a lot of mishaps, like a pitch to Najee Harris, who it wasn't the fault of Russell, it was the fault of Harris. He botched that one. And there was mistakes like that just had the Steelers offense stuck in neutral. TJ Watt, who was a beast in this game, 5 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, 2 sacks. But to me, I think even worse than the L they took to the Eagles, the possible L of a messed up ankle for the rest of the year might be what would be in the offing for TJ Watt. We hope that is not the case because he's one of the best players in the NFL. Your thoughts on the Eagles running their mark to 12-2 over the Steelers?
Brian McFadden called it just before the game kicked off yesterday, saying that he predicts Saquon Barkley to have his worst game of the season against the Steelers, and arguably so, because 19 carries, 65 yards. From the beginning of the second quarter when he got banged up a little bit, he wasn't the same since. And looking at it for what it is, he still has a chance to get the rushing record. Preferably within the next 2 weeks, because then you would definitely get it done within the 16-game season, because then, people are going to say it has an asterisk by it if you do it through 17 games because you had an extra game to do it, which deservingly so. But one move I hit up Dante about this yesterday, very shortly after it happened when I saw it, that spin move by Kenneth Gainwell early on in the game. To get past the defender on that. I mean, he didn't put up a lot of yards, a lot of production on the day, but Kenneth Gainwell in the times that he was active in this game was making an impact. I at least want to give him praise, because just because people want to look at the stats and say, oh, A.J. Brown had 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown, and Devontae Smith had 11 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. Ooh, they had such great games on this day. No,
the game
they
and stats,
did.
yeah.
But you got to look at the other contributions within the game, too. I got to give a shout out to Gainwell, not only on the receiving aspect, but also rushing. He made an impact there, too. And he made those rushing attempts when Saquon was not in the game to kind of counterbalance him being out. Jalen Hurts, in certain areas this year where he's looked absolutely trash, at least he was able to get 3 yards per carry on 15 attempts and put in a touchdown in the end zone, rushing and 2 passing. So for him to step it up when he has had some inconsistent moments as of late was definitely huge for this Eagles team. Collectively as a unit, not just besides Saquon, they have been able to have everything rolling in the right direction since early on in the year when old Nick was cussing out the fans and things weren't going well for him. They turned things around since then, mainly on the back of Saquon. But it seems like when Saquon, and it hasn't been many moments of it, which is why they're probably not used to it, but in the moments where Saquon has regressed a little or struggled in compared to what he did the week prior, Hurts has stepped it up, and he did it this week, and he proved it. And just like Dante just said, and I'll throw it up there, Gainwell was more than serviceable,
yeah.
which is probably the best way to describe him there. Dante says he just doesn't see Detroit beating them because if they play defense and play keep away, it's a wrap. And the Bills proved it yesterday too. So looking at it for what it is, the Eagles are a serious team in this NFC, just as serious as they were 2 years ago when they got to the Super Bowl. I think they learned from that Bradbury situation. Not you, Dante, but there are certain ones out there, and some of them have a microphone in front of them that want to cry too much about that play and about how they deserve to be the champs. Yes! There's still people crying about it. And I feel like if they are still crying about it, they don't deserve to have a microphone and a platform. But I digress with that. Here and now, when it comes to the 2024 Eagles, though, when Hurts is not playing like a dumpster pelican and he can remain consistent like in this game, all right, they are the team in the NFC. They are the number one team in the NFC, regardless of record, in my opinion, all right? And not just saying that because they are within my division. But you still have to get through a very serious Detroit Lions team. You have a very serious Bills team on the AFC team. Yes. And, you know, looking at it for what it is between the Lions, the Eagles, I can't even put the Commanders up there yet. The Vikings. Those are the 3 teams that I would say over my commies that have a really good chance of making it to the Super Bowl. And the Eagles find ways to play like they did yesterday to counterbalance a lackluster running attack by doing what they did with their quarterback. I feel like they have a really good chance of not only getting to the NFC Championship, but making it to the Super Bowl and possibly beating whoever the AFC champion is.
Dante, I wanted you to have this type of game yesterday where you actually saw a team where you saw them coming off the bus saying, we're going to deny Saquon Barkley to have the impact in this game that he's had in games previous. And we're going to dare number one to beat us. We're going to dare Jalen Hurts to beat us. I think as an Eagles fan, you needed to see if Jalen Hurts could actually beat a quality defense, and he did. And to me, I think if there's anything that is scary, that is your answer. You actually have a team where defensively, and you remember, heck, you even talked about it earlier in the year, Dante. You remember the people were saying, well, the defense is garbage. Well, yeah, the defense is garbage because they don't play D. You can't even put D in defense with the Eagles because they can't stop a team. They can't stop a cold. You remember that when they lost the Falcons, people were saying this defense sucks. When was the last time you heard people say the Eagles defense sucks? Exactly. That unit has turned it up. And to me, they're scarier than the Eagles' offense is. They just make things uncomfortable for you. It's almost as if you have to play a perfect game opposing them. You have to dot all your I's, cross all your T's just to stand a chance to beat them defensively. We saw that when they played the Ravens. We saw that when we definitely saw that when they played the Cowboys in Arlington. And we saw this yesterday with the Steelers. This Eagles defense, they force you into mistakes. They want to play ugly, and they force you to mistakes. The only issue I have with them is they got to find a balance on offense. They got to find a balance where if Saquon goes off, Jalen Hurts doesn't throw just 15 passes, or if Saquon is curtailed, that Jalen doesn't feel as though he has to go all the way off and throw 40 passes. They have to strike a balance offensively. I think that's the only issue I have, because that offensive line is getting better. You got your pieces in wide receivers with Smith and Smith and Brown, and you have Goddard, who to me is a wonderful security blanket for Hurts. And you have pieces outside of Saquon, as we talked about with Gainwell, who basically is one of those plug and play type of players. So you have the pieces, and I think you have the mentality, and the national media is running with, well, there must be turmoil because they're fighting with each other. Forget that. I forgot who said it, but winning is the greatest deodorant. All that type of junk is just fine. They're seeing that they're 12-2 now. They've won 10 straight. They have a chokehold in the NFC East. They see the number one seed in sight in the NFC. I'm like, what bad is there for them? But that's the only issue I have. They got to find a balance in offense where Jalen Hurts could still beat you in the pocket, and Saquon could still get the touches and still do damage on the ground, where you can at times take turns having Jalen gash a defense through the air and have Saquon just pound a defensive line to smithereens. And if you could do that, I think the Eagles, forget the NFC, they can win the Super Bowl, because that is the formula right there. But look, kudos to your Eagles though, Dante. And I told you they was going to beat the Steelers, because even though Russell had the kryptonite for the Eagles, I was like, no, not this time. The Eagles are a better team, and they proved it. They're 12-2. The Steelers, even though they clinched a playoff spot, they fall to 10-4. And congratulations to the Eagles, they clinched this playoff spot. So they, no matter what, they're in the playoffs. Now it's the NFC East they have to go after. So, and they will. I like their chances though for the NFC, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, let's get to this game. The Patriots, they went to the desert. They played the Cardinals. They must have shed tears of joy, sadness, or whatever have you, and seeing Bill Belichick becoming the new head coach of North Carolina, because they weren't paying attention to this game. 30-17 was the final score. Kyler Murray decided to toss away the joystick. He played with a football, 22-30, 224 yards. He had 5 carries for 11 yards as well. James Conner, who actually decided to show up on the ground, 16 carries, 110 yards with 2 touchdowns on the ground. He had 5 receptions, for 28 yards. That 110-yard effort from Conner, he paced away for the Cardinals offense to gain 163 yards on the ground. Through the air, Trey McBride, he had 9 receptions for 87 yards. On defense, Sean Murphy-Bunting had a pick, the lone pick of one Drake May. Oh, and not to be outdone, Chad Ryland, the Cardinals kicker, 3 of 3 for field goals. But Drake May, 19-23, 22 yards. He had a touchdown. He also had that Sean Murphy-Bunting pick. 4 carries for 14 yards. He had a rushing touchdown as well. And Ramondre Stevenson, decent all-around game. 13 carries, 69 yards. He had a reception for 16. Your thoughts on this sleepwalk of a game in the desert?
This game was so bad. it was really, really, really bad. I did not enjoy any bit of watching it. I don't enjoy any bit of discussing it. This Patriots team is definitely going to have a top 2 or 3 pick. I think the Giants or the Raiders are going to get the number 1 pick this year because it's a toss up between them. But the Patriots are looking like they're clamoring for that number 1 spot. By the way they are losing these games from the start, it was over. Even when Kyler Murray went out for a few plays and Clayton Tune had to come in and take over, they looked like they weren't skipping a beat. They were playing just as well with Clayton Tune as they were playing with Kyler Murray. So overall, no matter who the Patriots faced on this Sunday, they were going to take the L. So that's all I got to say about that to give us more time to talk about things that matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of things that matter, this game doesn't. The Patriots, they dropped the 3-11, and yes, they're number 1. The search for the number 1, I think, is on. I agree with you. I think the Raiders will probably have it. As for the Cardinals, they improved to 7-7, and they're crossing their fingers, hoping they have a chance to win the NFC West. Doubt it, though. Now to the Sunday night game between the Seahawks and the visiting Green Bay Packers. Oh, sorry. Side note, Packers. Burn that white helmet and the white pants. Oh, I'm sorry. The Packers, they basically they dominated this game from opening kickoff. 30-13 was final score. Really, the game wasn't that close. It looked like the Packers were playing with their food going against the Seahawks. Jordan Love was 20 of 27, 229 yards. He had a couple of touchdowns to the air. He also had 4 yards on the carry. Josh Jacobs, well, he had a really good all-around game, although he didn't gain the yards he wanted to on the ground. 26 carries, 94 yards of the rushing touchdown. He also had 4 receptions for 42 yards. He did cough it up once. But that 94-yard performance by Jacobs on the ground paced the way for the Packers offense to gain 140 yards on the ground. Defensively, Kingsley Enagbare, he had 5 solo tackles, 3 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. He paced the way for the Packers defense to have 10 total tackles for losses, 12 quarterback hits, and 7 sacks. Oh, Edgerrin Cooper and Carrington Valentine had a pick each. Brandon McManus, he had 3 of 3 field goals. On the Seahawks end, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he had 10 receptions, 83 yards. And the quarterback of choice, or the quarterback that started, I should say, Geno Smith, 15 of 19, 149 yards, and an interception. He had a carry for 5 yards. And he tweaked, I think it was his ankle, in the middle of the third quarter, which meant there was a Sam Howell sighting. I'll let my partner talk about that. Your thoughts on the 30-13 beatdown the Packers gave the Seahawks on the road?
To watch Sam Howell in the game do what he did, all it did was ensure that I was going to take the just when you had a small glimmer of hope that your previous prediction for the man could come into fruition, he just served it on up to you. To me, one of the very few out there publicly speaking highly of this man at the quarterback position after what he was doing last year. And all he did was serve me an L. In this game right here, no matter who was playing quarterback for the Seahawks, they were going to take the L because both him and Geno didn't play well at all. I mean, yes, Geno had 4 incompletions and one of them was only an interception. But, looking at it for what it was, Jordan Love commanded this game from start to finish. Going into halftime, the Packers had a 20-3 lead. So if you ask them for superstition reasons, they might want to keep those white helmets, even though we don't like them. But for terms of victory against Dumpster Pelican teams, if they got to play a Dumpster Pelican team, put on the white helmet, you're guaranteed a white glove victory. That's what happened in this game. But beyond the shenanigery, there's not much more to really break down here, as I'd like to save time for the other games we have ahead and the breakdowns of the upcoming. So, with that being said, I'm going to pass it back so we can get on to that.
Yes. And to the Seahawks, I hate the fact when you all look like walking human highlighters, but I digress. The Packers, they improved to 10-4. They're on the doorstep to clinching a playoff spot of their own. Meanwhile, the Seahawks, who were battling for the NFC West, had the lead. Now they fall to 8-6 and outside of the NFC West lead because now the Rams hold it. It's time for
Oh, yeah.
the Chargers. They hosted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who would have thought the Chargers would have laid down and played roadkill for the Buccaneers? As I dare say, Tampa actually had the best game of the season, and the Chargers the worst in theirs. 40-17 was the final score. Baker Mayfield, he wasn't bunkering up in this game. 22-27, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 carries for 25 yards. He did make one mistake. He threw a Jamel Dean interception. But this is the game you would want to have Baker Mayfield play. Bucky Irving came back to the fold. 15 carries, 117 yards on the ground, 2 receptions for -4 yards in the air. Rashad White, who had a balanced game, 15 carries as well, 64 yards for him, 2 receptions for 17 yards, and a receiving touchdown. He unfortunately did have a lost fumble. The offerings from Mayfield, Irving, and White gave the Bucs offense 223 yards on the ground. Mike Evans, it looks like he's getting back to form. 9 receptions, 159 yards, and 2 of those 4 receiving touchdowns from Baker Mayfield. On defense, Levante David, 8 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, 3 quarterback hits, and a sack and a half. Logan Hall, he had a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. He also had a sack and a half. And those 2 really did help make life difficult for the Chargers. Chase McLaughlin, he also had 4-4 from field goals. Justin Herbert just simply didn't get on track. Although the stats would probably say otherwise, we know better. 21-33, 195 yards. Did throw for 2 touchdowns. He also threw for a pick. And I did mention that pick. I'm sorry. It was Taheeb Still who received that pick, not Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean plays with the Bucs. Your thoughts on the Buccaneers really having the best game of the season?
Yeah, what tipped the scales is the fact that they could establish the run and the Chargers couldn't.
Could not.
I mean,
right.
Gus Edwards tried his best, but only on
Yeah.
8 carries was able to muster up 23 yards. I mean, that's just not going to cut it against a team like this Buccaneers team. Justin Herbert, returning the ball over, he only had a turnover, but that definitely did make a difference in the flow of the game. I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference in just the score, but the early on, turnover with that, the fact that you also had to turn to Taylor Heineke and he could only put up 4 yards. I mean, it was just a very ugly game for this Chargers team. I mean, they have already exceeded expectations because of what they've done so far in this year and compared to what they did with old Staley last year, and how we're glad to never have to see that again for this team. But Jim Harbaugh still has a lot of work to do. Very similar.
Right.
I look at the Chargers in a very similar way to where I look at the Commanders, where they've built a pretty good turnaround, but they still have a good amount of work to do before we can really put them in high relevance and really take them seriously for a deep playoff run. Can they make the playoffs this year? Absolutely. Will they go far? Probably not. I have the same predictions for them as I would with the Commanders, but they could win the first round in a wild card playoff game. But you get to the division round, you're going to get ousted by a team that's just got a lot more weapons, a lot more chemistry, and a lot better, weapons all the way around because they had some years to put it together. I mean, You can't build a Chiefs dynasty like they've got in a year. It took several years. I mean, a lot of those pieces that they have on that team have been there for a decade now, like Kelsey and Chris Jones. Shortly after that, you get Mahomes, and then you start piecing the other parts of the puzzle together. It's going to take some time for the Chargers to do that. But the fact that they are 8-6 right now, this is a tough loss. But you're also playing against a team like the Buccaneers, who, outside of Baker Mayfield and a few other weapons, they've got a team that's still got a lot of their pieces from their Super Bowl win a few years ago, from 4 years back. So they've got the chemistry there. You know, they know what it takes to get these types of wins, and they got it against a team that 2 years from now, a win like this would not come as easy for the Buccaneers against this Chargers team. So get it while you can, and they did, and that's what happened in this game this past weekend.
I 100% agree with you. The running game that the Bucs established was definitely the difference. And your point on the pick that Herbert threw, the Chargers hung around, but when they started to make those mistakes, that is when the margin for the victory started to increase, because the momentum just snowballed for the Buccaneers, and they took advantage of that, and they basically smelled blood in the water, and they were like sharks, and they went for the kill, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Both teams came out the game 8-6. The Buccaneers are in better shape from, I guess you could say, from a divisional standpoint. They now are in control of the NFC South lead. The NFC West Chargers, they are looking up. This loss sort of is a crushing blow. They now hold the 7th seed. They hope to actually beat the Broncos later on. I think actually that's their next game, to probably have a chance to climb up to the 6th seed. But both teams are 8-6, and they're looking to be playoff ready now. To the game of the week, and it looks like this game is going to include more than just the Bills and the Lions. Looks like we'll be talking more about the Eagles and the Vikings, and possibly even the Steelers and the Chiefs. The Bills, this game was pinball machine worthy. They beat the Lions 48-42. This was probably the most entertaining game I've seen in quite some time. Josh Allen, goodness gracious, 23 of 34, 362 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He also had 11 carries of 68 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. James Cook, 14 carries, 105 yards. He also had 2 touchdowns himself on the ground. He had a reception for 28 yards. The leading receiver was running back Ty Johnson. He only had 2 carries for 9 yards, but he had 5 receptions for 114 yards. 3 of those were over 20 yards. 3 of those receptions over 20, I should say. But yes, with Allen's total and Cook's total, they paced away for the Bills to gain 197 yards on the ground against a battered Lions defense. Tyler Bass, he was 2 of 3 in field goals, along of 50 yards, and a miss from 28 or 24, I forget, but it was a chip shot that he missed. I digress. Jared Goff, 38 of 59. Ooh, a lot of attempts. 494 yards and 5 touchdowns. He did not throw a pick. Didn't turn the ball over at all. He also had 2 carries for 13 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 8 carries for 31 yards on a rushing touchdown. He had 5 receptions for 83 yards and a receiving touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, the reliable target for Jared Goff, 14 receptions, 193 yards, a touchdown, and a costly fumble. I think that was in the third quarter that he did make that fumble. And Sam Laporta, the tight end, who is looking to be one that you were going to mention for a while, 7 receptions, 111 yards. Your thoughts on, to me, this has easily been the most entertaining game of the month thus far between the Bills and the Lions.
This is the highest scoring game of the season so far, and definitely proved it with what we saw. And I've been picking the Lions to go to the Super Bowl throughout this season, I've been saying the Bills have a really good chance of going. And I feel like after watching this game, these are going to be the 2 teams we see Super Bowl this upcoming February. I
If so,
think,
that'd be great.
I think that it would also it would be great if we got this type of game with the high scoring back and forth.
Hmm.
Defenses struggle, but the offenses on both sides definitely played really well
Yeah.
throughout. At least the Lions did towards the end, because they were up by three possessions at one point. The Bills
That's
were.
correct.
It was not looking like it was going to be like this. In that onside kick early on in the fourth quarter by Dan
Mhm.
Campbell was what set it up to be this with the end of the game, because had he not gone for that, the defense held the Bills to the next point, which I mean, all defenses this year have had a hard time stopping the Buffalo Bills.
That's true.
You know, and looking at what their success has been on fourth down, I don't blame him for going for it, but a lot of people are today. I think if they get to that situation in the Super Bowl, he makes a different call. And this game goes in a different way. It goes in the Lions' favor in that game, because you've got now on tape your team facing this caliber of a team when both sides are healthy, except for your defense has had injuries this year and miscues, which has affected you. But until this game right here, it wasn't really affecting you, that being the Lions. So, very big win for the Bills, especially when you're at the heels of the Chiefs, who are 2 games ahead of you right now for the number 1 spot with 3 games left. You have to literally win the next 3 games, and the Chiefs have to lose 2 of the next 3 games in order for you to have a chance, because you did beat them in the head-to-head matchup, and you did give them their 1 loss that they had. So the Bills need to win the next 3, and the Chiefs need to lose the next 2 out of 3 for the Bills to have a chance. But playing a team like this, who has arguably been the entirety of this season the number 1 team in the NFC, for you to beat the team that a lot of people are picking to be the Super Bowl favorite this year speaks volumes into not only what we have seen and said throughout this year, but what we could see and say for the remainder of this season and throughout the playoffs. I don't think the Bills are going to go to the playoffs and get thumped in the first or second round, or even the AFC Championship. This motherfathering team's going to the Super Bowl. They're going to face the Lions again in that game, and the Lions are going to win that game, is still my prediction on this day of December.
Dante says, look, I'm not a believer in either team. 82 points for the Lions in 2 weeks. 84 for the Bills in that same span. Nah, that ain't it. I get why you say that. The only reason why I would say no for the Lions, the defense has been a mash unit, and it's continuously been one ever since Aiden Hutchinson went down.
It's went down, but they've been scoring the points to make up for it. And
Yeah,
it's not like they're giving up 48 points to every single team every single week. So, and they got a chance, like you and I both talked about, they got a chance to have him back by the NFC Championship, by the Super Bowl at the latest. They just got to make it there. And if they keep scoring, if it takes Jared Goff throwing 60 attempts in a game, they're going to get there. And they almost did it against a team that's been at the top of the AFC with the Chiefs all season long. So you got to believe a little bit.
And you went exactly where I was going to go with it. I think what Campbell is doing is he's basically saying, well, I got a high-powered offense that can offset what my defense can't do, because look, yes, defense has been put up with duct tape, and yes, the defense is basically the Achilles heel of this squad, no question about that. However, if you have an offense that even in a loss can score 42 points, yeah, you have an offense that can do what they did. But you said the key when we were talking about this in the Steelers and the Eagles game. The Eagles, I think they stand a chance of beating the Lions, but they have to do 2 things. They definitely have to score, and I think they have to I think utilize the running ability of Saquon a little bit more. But they have to also stop Montgomery and Gibbs running the ball. You have to eliminate them being any factor in that offense for you to even stand a chance. Because even if you do gain yards against that Lions defense, but you don't stop Montgomery and Gibbs, You still might take an L. Still might, because that offense is that explosive. But kudos to the both teams actually. This matchup was hyped up. It lived up to the billing, and I'm actually proud of the Bills. Actually, I'm also proud of Sean McDermott because I think he also in this game said, you know what, I'm gonna beat Dan Campbell to the punch, and I'm gonna gamble a little early myself. And he gambled a couple fourth downs, and it paid off for him. Because I think both drives, so he did the fourth down gambles, it actually turned into touchdowns each time. So you have them who they improved to 11-3. Of course, they already have the AFC East crown in hand. They're looking and eyeing the number 1 seed since they do have the win against the Chiefs in hand. But that struggle is going to be mighty tough, not necessarily with the games they play, but for the Chiefs having to lose maybe 2 games for them to come down to earth, so to speak. The Lions, they are now with the Eagles at 12-2. They may have the Vikings, who, congratulations, thanks to the Packers' victory over the Seahawks, they also clinched a playoff spot. If they win tonight, they also will be 12-2. So, the NFC East, not just with the wild cards, it looks like with the number 1 seed is about to get very interesting. Well, that concludes the game of the week, and also it concludes opening drive. But we have more in store.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Break!
Where my dogs at? That's right. It is time to award this week's grand champ. Who is your grand champ in the tribe? You can put it out there. Tell us what you feel. Drew, who is yours, sir?
Well, discussing it with you yesterday, sir, we have got a honorable mention and an actual pick. And my honorable mention for grand champ of the week this week, based on his interception that stopped the Seahawks' momentum late in the fourth quarter, Edgerrin Cooper, who had 4 solo tackles, 1 sack, and that interception that stopped the momentum for said Seahawks team. I know you hate the white helmets, and so do I, but he did rock it pretty well in said game. Even look at that face, bottom of the screen. He's telling you, look at me, look at these white helmets. We're getting it done. Now, when it comes to my actual pick for grand champ of the week, I'm going to steal your pick from last week. Even though he didn't do as well statistically, he did well enough to earn the Bills a victory and led them to a victory over the number 1 team in the NFC because of his poise. 23 of 34 with completions out of attempts, 362 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, along with 11 carries for 68 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns to give him 4 total touchdowns on the day. I, Drew Willingham, have to give my selection of grand champ of the week to Josh Allen in this game.
I actually like your honorable mention because I saw the play that basically sort of dimmed the lights all together for the Seahawks because that interception by Cooper, well timed by him. He played that wonderfully because I did not see that he was going to drop back and get the pick, but yeah, he did have a really good game. All right, so for me, I had to go defensively for my honorable mention. Levante David, he basically played like a beast. He turned back the clock, and you mentioned it earlier. Drew did, with him being one of those members of that the last Super Bowl championship game team. It looked like he channeled that with 8 tackles, 3 quarterback hits at a sack and a half, along with a tackle for loss. He just simply channeled what I was seeing with the Bucks doing his thing and doing their thing against the Chargers. They just simply stopped what they were able to do offensively. But to me, the grand champ for me this week is Lamar Jackson. Yes, I know it was the Giants, but the Giants, they put on the pants one leg at a time. 21 of 25, 290 yards, 5 touchdown passes. He did have 6 carries of 65 yards. What I really was impressed about is he really wanted to beat a team in the pocket. Yes, I know, Giants. Still, he wanted to beat a team in the pocket. He did, and I give him mad credit for it. And that will be, for me, my dog of the week / grand champ. Growl, homie. Total football talk. Total football talk. All right, time for the 2-minute drill. This is, of course, when we get a chance to show who we are picking for the upcoming week and even for the Monday night affairs. So we will begin with the 2 games that are left for tonight in week 15. That would be the Bears, who are at 4-9. They travel to the Twin Cities to play the Vikings at 11-2. ESPN will have that kick. Oh, sorry, ESPN Plus will have that kick along with ABC. All times are Eastern, 8 p.m. As I said. We pretty much know the Bears are going to get stomped by the Vikings. Just how bad? I mean, why should we ask who's going to win between? Why should I ask you who's going to win between the Vikings and the Bears? I mean, come on.
I mean, it is a division game. It is a division game. The division ones, even if they're at their worst season, still find a way to give you a hard time. But we know the Vikings are going to win this one.
Right. I mean, yes. Look, all right. The Bears at one time they were 4-2, 4-2.
They have
they're now
the Hail Mary game,
and I think it has been the case. I think they have slid further down. I think they slid precipitously worse since that game, and I agree with you there on that. It's just been bad for them. Let me find it. Now, the other Monday night game is in Las Vegas between the Raiders at 2-11 and the Falcons at 6-7. ESPN will have this kick. 8:30 will be when the opening kickoff happens. Who do you have in this game?
I had to find the button. When it comes to this right here, this game, the Raiders definitely are not going to win this game because they are going for the top pick in the NFL draft. I don't care if they are playing the Falcons or they were playing, the Patriots. They're serving up a win to the other team. They're going to make Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins look like he is earning every single penny, even though it hasn't looked like he's been earning the pennies for a few weeks, if not the entirety of the season, but I digress. I'm going with the Falcons to improve to 7-7 and the Raiders to fall to 2-12.
I think the same. The Raiders just don't have the one. They don't have the horses, and 2, I think they're probably tanking for the number 1 pick too. What sucks is the Falcons, who are now on a 4-game losing streak. They have the perfect team where they can actually lick their wounds and actually find a W. Hopefully they will, and hopefully Kirk Cousins will stop throwing interceptions. All right, our Thursday night game features the 8-6 Chargers. They host the 9-5 Broncos, the divisional rival that the Chargers have already beaten in Denver, comes to town. Prime Video will have this game. 8:15 will be the kick time. Who do you have in this one?
This one, when it comes to Thursday night football, another game that's a division contest, and it's going to make a big difference in the Chargers for the rest of this year if they can get over the hump and get into the playoffs. I feel like they're going to do it, and they're going to do it at home, especially after a tough loss from this past week. If Bo Nix continues to struggle and have turnovers like he did in this past game, he's going to hand it right to the Chargers. However, I think it's going to be a closer contest than we think because of the division contest, and it's going to be decided within a possession, but the Chargers win in the end.
Yeah, I think the type of game that the Broncos like to play is similar to what the Chargers want to play, which is to take the ball, make it a prize possession, make time possession be the determining factor. And I like the fact that you have Justin Herbert, who is a little more experienced at the quarterback position than Bro Nix, and I think that is the difference. Outside of that, this is going to be one grind of a game, which I don't mind because it's actually going to be entertaining. But I think the Chargers will win too.
Who's giving them the business?
Now to the 4 teams that will be playing on Christmas. Both matchups will be playing each other on Saturday. We'll start the 1 p.m. kick on NBC/Peacock. The Texans at 9-5, the newly minted AFC South champs. They travel to Arrowhead to play against the Chiefs at 13-1. They, of course, are the AFC West champs. They're looking to clinch the number 1 seed. Who do you have in this one?
They're looking to clinch the number 1 seed, and I feel like it might be delayed a little bit, Cole. I think it's going to be delayed by another week, potentially more, because I have the Houston Texans with the upset here, getting to their 10th win of the season against this Kansas City Chiefs team that has been struggling. They'll fall to 13-2, give the Bills a little bit of hope to come on back towards that 1 seed, even though a lot of people don't want to hear it, and you may go the other way. Even being a Texans fan, I got to pick an upset, and I'm picking it right here on Saturday on Peacock.
I'm actually inclined to go with you, and not because I'm rooting for the win. I'm looking at the Chiefs. I'm seeing a team that, against good teams, they seem to play these tough, tight games where they can find a way to win. And if this was in January, I would pick the Chiefs. But since this is December, and let's be honest, this is a game really the Chiefs don't fully need, although they really do need to have it. I think they're going to be had by the aspect of it's a team that defensively can stop most of what we do. It's going to be tougher to get that one play that we need at the end, and I think the Texans will do it. Is it going to be easy? No. This is going to be a grind them out game. But yeah, I think I see and I also think the Texans have a little bit more to play for because I think they want to have the 3 seed and not the 4. But we shall see on that one.
Who's giving them the business?
And the other game, Fox will carry it. 4:30 will be the opening kick between the visiting Steelers at 10-4, the AFC North leading Pittsburgh Steelers. They're traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens at 9-5. Of course, this will be for the AFC North lead. And of course, if the Steelers win, they'll have a stranglehold on the division. Your thoughts on this game and who you see winning it?
The stranglehold has been real. However, looking at things for what they are, I mean, Steelers are at 10-4, but we got to look at what happened with TJ Watt this past game and how much of an impact that could have on the defense. You got Lamar clicking on all cylinders. If the Ravens can get 75 to 80 plus rushing yards out of Derrick Henry and can have a consistent game with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens win this one at home. And it's because of what, I feel like the impact of TJ Watt, I don't think he's going to be playing regardless in this upcoming game. And, could he tough it out for this type of win? Do they need? Yes. But regardless of if you win this game or not, you are in the playoffs, okay? Right. I know seeding makes a difference. Having a 3 or 4 seed by being a division winner would be a lot bigger than just sneaking in as a 6 or 7 seed because you wanted to get healthy towards the end. But, hey, health is important, not just for this season, but for beyond and for an entirety of a career. So, if sitting TJ for a couple of weeks and you take an L or 2 and still find a way to get in, I wouldn't say find a way because you're still in, but still happen to get in as a wild card team rather than a division winner, I think that's what we expected from you all along, considering what we saw the first month or 2 of the season with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson anyway. So it's not like it's that big of a difference to watch them go in as a 5th, 6th, or 7th seed wild card team, that being the Steelers. I think you rest those players that need to rest and get healthy and try to get them back in time for the beginning of the playoffs, because this week the Ravens are going to win this game at home.
I'm with you. I think the TJ Watt injury is going to affect the Steelers probably more than they would like. And I almost out of spite want to pick against the Ravens because I do not like the fact that they feel as though Lamar Jackson needs to be Superman. This is the type of game when they need to show us that, yes, our offense revolves around number 22, Derrick Henry, and we can, with physical action, take a team out. And they should smell blood, and they should have a physical game plan put together, and they should be tied with the Steelers at 10-5. I'm rooting for that, of course, obviously, because if they're 10-5 and the Texans are 10-5, then the number 3 seed is within reach. So yes, the Ravens, I'm rooting for the win, and I'm picking them to win because I think the Steelers defensively are damaged enough, and TJ Watt is, to me, their linchpin as to how all things go for the Steelers. So yes, I see the Ravens beating the Steelers.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now to the Sunday games. The Giants at 2-12. They travel to the ATL, and they are meeting up with the Falcons. Fox will have that game. 1 p.m. will be the kick. I'll ask this. Do you think that Kirk Cousins will end his interception spree if he doesn't on Monday night? Do you think he'll end his interception spree?
Was it like 8 interceptions in the past 4 games, no touchdowns?
Something along those lines, yes. Yeah.
It's bad. We were just talking about this at work the other night because there's a certain somebody in there who is a Falcons fan. But when it comes to that right there, we should start calling the Atlanta Chameleons. So keep changing colors. They're not true and loyal to themselves. When you're not true and loyal to yourselves, you're not going to have positive outcomes at the end of the games. So for the Atlanta Chameleons, you will get the win on Monday night. You will improve to 7-7 because of the type of team that you're playing. We've already been through that. That is a 2-12 team. And it's funny that when you beat them, they'll be 2-12 and you go from them to another 2-12 team. And they're going to give you another win too. So it doesn't matter how much your colors change. You're going to find yourself with 2 wins. And I think that they do it while in between 2 games, maybe not in one, but between the 2 games, Kirk Cousins finds a way to throw 3 more interceptions to have 11 interceptions in 6 games, but finds a way to win because whether it's a shovel pass or a run by Bijan Robinson or a fumble to himself for the touchdown, Kirk Cousins is going to lead them to an Atlanta Chameleon victory, Cole.
A fumble to himself. Lord have mercy. I think the Falcons will win this too because the Giants, I think they've already mailed it in for the season.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Just noted 2 hours and 8 minutes in, make a short.
Oh Lord, the Bills at 11-3, they host the Patriots. This will be the first of the 2 games they play against them to end the season. CBS will have this kick at 1 p.m. The Patriots are 3-11. How bored will the Bills be to defeat the Patriots? I know this is a division game, but still, this is the Patriots.
It'll be boring, but it'll be very useful in the end when trying to chase the Chiefs. So I don't think they will be as bored. They will be just as motivated as if it were any other game. The Bills will win this decisively by at least 2 possessions.
Yeah. And I think they really do. I seriously think they desire to have that number 1 seed. And hopefully they can see if they can fly the Chiefs down to do it.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
But I feel for the Patriots. Fox 1 p.m. kick. The Bears, they they host the wounded and now one coming off of a loss, 12-2 Detroit Lions. Who do you have in this game?
It is a division game again, but I don't think it's going to be but so close because the Lions are going to be pretty mad at what happened this past week against the Bills, and they're going to punish the Bears for it. The Bears better enjoy not getting beat up so bad by the Vikings because I think the Vikings are going to take it easier on them on Monday Night Football than the Detroit Lions will this weekend. Detroit wins this game by 3 possessions. 3, and that's the first time all season I've called a game by 3 possessions, by the way.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the Thanksgiving game they played was more of a fluke, and I think this will be more of a rout. I agree with you. I think the Lions will take care of the Bears.
Who's giving them the business?
Another 1 p.m. kick. CBS will have this game. The Bengals at 6-8. They're hoping to have a play. I'm sorry, Fox will carry this at 1 p.m. They're hoping to have a playoff spot. They host the Browns. They're in state and divisional rival, 3-11. Do you think this will be a game, or should I even ask who do you think will win it?
We're definitely going with the Bengals in my camp here. It's been tough to watch the type of year that the Bengals have had overall, but in their past games they have had as of recently, they beat the Titans, which, I mean, the gift that keeps on giving, like you said, gave them the game right there. And they beat the Cowboys in consecutive games when Bart threw that pass to Lisa in the end zone with the Simpsons NFL game that I still won't let go. But before that, the Bengals had dropped 3 straight games to the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Ravens, which is why, along with another rough stretch that they had to start the year, they are clawing back and fighting their way to the point that they are now to be at this point now at 6-8. So, I mean, good on them to come back and fight this way, to come back. And I feel like they're definitely going to continue to have that trend with this win against the Browns, but they still have a ways to go. They still have to win 2 more games after that. And but at least the Browns will be able to serve them up an easy one, considering what they've done as of late without the one who likes to give free massages.
Yes, I agree with you there. For the Bengals, the end of their year ends in Pittsburgh. But I think they will get the victory here against the Browns.
Who's giving them the business?
Right. CBS will have this game as well. 1 p.m. kick. The Indianapolis Colts also at 6-8. They host the Titans at 3-11. Now, will Levis continue to be the gift that keeps on giving, or will the Colts find a way to actually choke this game away?
Both of these teams absolutely sucked last weekend, and I think they're both going to suck again. And at least the Colts don't suck as bad, and they want to give their fans a little bit of hope. And the gift that keeps on giving is going to help them give their fans a little bit more hope just before Christmas to improve to 7-8. The gift that keeps on giving leads his team to a 3-12 record after this loss. But Indianapolis is at home, and they still have something to play for. They're going to find a way to get a win. It's just not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for the Colts to make me smile. I know it's rare that I root for a divisional rival, but I got to, since they won't affect one way or the other what the Texans do. Continue to put the Titans out your the misery, out of my misery. Colts, please.
Who's giving them the business?
All right, CBS will have this 1 p.m. kick. The Jets at 4-10. They host the NFC West leading. Yes, that is correct. NFC West leading Los Angeles Rams at 8-6. Who do you have in this one?
This was a little bit tougher as of games of late, and I say this because of the role that the Jets got on this past week when old Captain Ayahuasca and Devontae Adams got it going for the massive, massive win.
That was a lie.
Lord.
No way. The Rams are winning this game. Don't believe what I just said. I'm going with the Rams to improve to 9-6.
The Rams needed more. It's just that simple. The Rams needed more. The Jets are a dumpster fire. And it looks like the Rams defensively are waking up, and offensively they're putting it together. So, yeah, I don't think the Jets stand much of a chance. I really don't.
Who's giving them the business?
All right, now your commies, as you like to call them, or the Commanders. They're at 9-5. They host the Eagles at 12-2. Of course, this is an NFC East division game. The Commanders needed just for them to stay alive for the NFC East Championship. If the Eagles win, they will become the NFC East champs. Fox will have their game at 1 p.m. And if the Commanders win this game, I think that will clinch it for them for a playoff spot. Who do you have in this one, sir?
I'm sorry, Dante, but for this game, and considering that it's at home, you won the last game in your house. And of course, I mean, it was pretty easy to go with. I did predict them to win at your house last time, but I was wrong. But I feel like with the momentum of them being at their house and what they have done this year at home, and it's time for them to get a decisive win over a really good team, because they've mainly gotten a lot of these wins this year over subpar teams. So it's time, if anybody's going to take the Commanders seriously, that they have to get a win against a really good team. The Eagles can afford to lose a game at this point. And, you know, even though they're trying to get that number one spot, get the first round bye, and catch the Lions, I feel like the Lions are going to lose at least one, maybe two more games before the end of this year. So it really wouldn't hurt you to take the L. Even though I may be wrong with my prediction, it's going to be by at least a touchdown or less. Anywhere between a field goal or a touchdown will decide this game, no matter who wins, even if the Eagles win. But I'm going with the Commanders to win this game because they need this win to prove to the fan base, to the league, and to themselves that they are a serious team to take into consideration when playing them between now and the next half decade.
I'm actually gonna go with you on that one. I think the Commanders, I think they're gonna come out with more fire this game than they have any other all throughout the season. I think they feel that they need to have to prove something, even if they don't, and more than likely they won't, because correct me if I'm wrong, Dante. The final two games the Eagles play is against the Cowboys and the Giants, and both at home. So I think the Commanders are going to come out with something to prove, and I think they want to. I think they want to do like what you said about this team all throughout the season. Yeah, these wins are great, but they're not coming against a quality team like the Eagles. You know, it's coming against teams they should beat, and I think they want to have one of those games where it says, "Yeah, we beat a team that was supposed to beat us." At least have that in their pocket before they go into the playoffs. I think you can see a more spirited. I think you can see the most spirited effort out of the Commanders here. I think that will buoy them to a win over the Eagles, because this will be the toughest game they will play until they get to the playoffs. It's not even a question. So I think it's going to be that, and then I think we'll probably hear more. Oh, there's turmoil in the Eagles locker room type of stuff again. But I think the Commanders will show that they have arrived in a sense of you got to take them serious. Now, will they win the NFC East? I don't think so, but I think you'll be happy if they actually have a win over at the NFC East champs and a team that has won at least 12, more than likely 14 games in the regular season.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, another 1 p.m. kick. The Panthers at 3-11. Fox would carry that. They also carry the Commanders-Eagles game. The 3-11 Panthers, they will host the Cardinals. They're at 7-7. Of course, they are hoping for any shot at the NFC West crown. Who do you have in this one?
Especially when it comes to this one right here, it's a little tough. No, it's not. Carolina Panthers got to lose to the Cardinals. Cardinals get to 8-7. Panthers fall to 3-12.
Yeah, what'd he say?
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, now we get to the late afternoon games on Sunday. Fox will also carry this one. The Seahawks Free falling at 8-6. They host the Vikings at 11-2. Ooh, this is the worst time to play them. Okay. In fact, I say they'll be 12-2. Who do you have in this game, and do you even think the Seahawks stand any chance of beating the Vikings?
Regardless of the Vikings lose on Monday Night Football, which I doubt or not, they are going to get a win here against the Seahawks based on what we saw out of Geno Smith from this past Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then if they have to turn to Sam Howell, like Kyle Nash says, with 2 L's in his name, no matter who you got to turn to, they're going to lose. And the other team, the Vikings, are going to take the win.
Yeah, I see them becoming a team that's going to be 13-2. I just don't see them losing to the Bears. And I definitely don't see them losing to the Seahawks either, because I agree with you. The Seahawks are wounded. Even if Geno Smith actually starts, they're wounded. Yeah, and the Vikings defensively, they are cooking right now. And we saw them play against a Packers defense that they're not as good, but the Seahawks could only manage to score 13 points against them. The Vikings defense is much better.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, CBS will carry this one at 4:25. The Raiders, they will be hosting the Jaguars at 3-11. Who do you have in this one?
This right here will be the absolute game of the year.
That was a lie.
No, it will not. So let's do this.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Do you absolutely care at all who wins this game?
Hell to the no, to the no. Hell no, to the no.
Just want to remind you that I am awake, despite the boringness of the game that we are talking about right now that's going to happen this upcoming weekend at 4:25 between two of the worst teams in the league and two of the teams that will be within the top 5 of the NFL draft this year.
Yep.
The Raiders will be 2-12 by the time they face them at this point, and they'll be 2-13 by the end of the game, because again, they're going to be handing the other team victories as the Jags will try to save old Dougie P's job, and it will not work. As a result, regardless of this game or not, the Raiders will be 2-13 by the end of this contest.
Oh my gosh. Raiders handing teams victories, Lord. Yeah, well, you might be right. And right now, the Jags are the better team of the two, but good Lord, this game is going to be absolutely ugly.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, the other 4:25 kick, and CBS will also have this game. The Dolphins and the 49ers. This game will be at South Beach. Both teams are 6-8. So which team is going to go on with just a sliver of hope to make the playoffs, and which team is going to wave the white flag and mail it in?
I don't think either one of them are going to make the playoffs, to be honest. I mean, the way that they're playing,
yeah.
You got one team that has a guy that walks out on them before the end of the game that will most likely never wear an NFL uniform again, that we didn't talk about earlier.
Right.
With the Ray Greenlaw situation. It's sad to see that. It reminds me of Antonio Bryant. He never put on an NFL uniform again, and neither will this guy, I don't think. So, and then you got Tua, who's totally inept half the time. So between the two situations, I don't think either one of them are going to make the playoffs, and regardless of who wins, it doesn't matter. And based on the fact that the 49ers, when they don't have their weapons, Brock Purdy can't really remember how to work within the scheme either. It seems like he can only play well when he has the weapons around him. It's literally going to be a coin toss of who doesn't sneeze the most by the end of the morning when they're preparing to get on the field as to who's going to win. And I think I'm going to have to go in the favor of the Dolphins, to where they give McDaniel and the team a little bit more of a glimmer of hope. I think Shanahan might be eventually stepping out the door. I think the rumors with all that may be potentially true. And for the Fairweather 49ers fans, I kind of hope it does happen because of all the great things that Kyle Shanahan was bringing to the team. And he is destined to get a Super Bowl championship for them. I think it's destined to watch them fail. So it's destined to see others get mother-fathering humbled for a change and realize you cannot just have a lottery ticket, fill in blank numbers, and expect to win every single time you roll the dice. And that is exactly my pick for the week. The Dolphins win, but it won't matter.
Fairweather 49ers fan. We don't know any Fairweather 49er fans. I mean, I can't think of one. I can't think of one on the top of my head.
That was a lie.
You like that? You like that?
I do.
Yeah, I know you definitely like it. And I know a few of them of our colleagues who do as well. Yeah, I think the 49ers are, whether it is through injury or through, and I'll address it later, a person walking out on the team. I won't say the organization is a sinking ship, but I would say the team that is the Super Bowl contender as of late, I think that has walked out the door. And so, yeah, I think they are now a team that's about to be in flux very soon. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, who I think is going to win this game, yeah, they will have a glimmer of hope still, but I agree with you. That hope is going to be so small. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs either. Yeah. But the 49ers, I think, will.
That was a lie.
Just testing you out there.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Now the Sunday night game, 8:20 kick on NBC. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are riding high at 8-6, leading the NFC South. They will face off against the homebound Dallas Cowboys, the ones that will be going to the Super Bowl in 2024.
We got to pause that.
Of course not. Who do you have in this one?
This one right here, I'm going with Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I just, regardless if they have the opportunity to win, I just can't pick the Cowboys today. I'm just not feeling it.
I'm not either.
So, yeah, I'm going with the Buccaneers. I almost said the Cowboys. I'm going with the Buccaneers.
I'm not feeling them either. I think the Cowboys are a lost cause, and I really do think that the Buccaneers, who one, they have too much to fight for, and two, they really are a better team, and they're going to run the Cowboys into the ground defensively. Well, that takes care of the 2-minute drill. But we're not done. Total football talk. Oh, yes, Christmas is around the corner, but we're not talking about stuffing stockings. We're talking about snowflakes of the week. And for Drews, the floor is yours.
I think when you go back and you've really paid attention to the things that I've said throughout this episode, these will not be surprises by me on this day. When you look at my pick for the snowflake of the week. Now, I do have an honorable mention this week because of the things that we saw within the game of football this week. I felt like it was necessary that I have an honorable mention, and because of the shade I threw at him earlier for his ineptness, we're going to go with Tua Tagovailoa as the honorable mention for snowflake of the week, in my opinion. 29 of 40 completion out of attempts with a touchdown and 3 interceptions. Also had a lost fumble in this game. Lost game for his team. And the other note that I'd like to bring about, again, for the 17th time since talking about him in this episode, is he played like he was totally inept yet again. So when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, that is my choice for honorable mention for snowflake of the week. My actual pick for Snowflake of the week, yet again, is Will Motherfathering Levis. 8 of 12 completions out of attempts, 89 passing yards with 3 interceptions. I mean, it was so bad for the Titans, so they replaced him with a racist due to dumpster Pelican performance throughout this game. When you have to turn to a racist to lead your team, you know you are definitely in bad territory, because it is just not good when you have to turn to a bad person, let alone a racist in general. So, with all that being said, how can you blame me for my choices for the honorable mention? As always, the main title to the Snowflake of the Week.
Replaced by a racist. That is hilarious. And the racist in question would be Mason Rudolph. But goodness gracious. Replaced by a racist.
That may be a good short right there, too.
That's just so brilliant. Oh my gosh. Ooh, well, all right. So I also have an honorable mention. It will be one Dan Campbell. And look, I get it. The defense is battered. The offense is high powered. And yes, it sort of is, I guess you could say, a sign of I don't trust the defense from the coach, which I can understand. I wouldn't trust them either, not because they are bad, they're just beat up. But I would not, if I have momentum and I'm down 10, hand a high-powered offense the opportunity to score from a short distance, like with that onside kick Campbell with his gamble did. Now, I get it. I just think that was a bad move, but that he's not the one. The one is you, Lamar Jackson fan. Yes. Yes, I'm looking at you. I heard you all. I mean, clear as a bell. I mean, you all were saying things such as, quote, Lamar Jackson, he stunted today, 5 touchdowns. Well, he's back in the MVP race, close quote. And one of you said, quote, oh, Lamar Jackson's vaulted to the front of the class for MVP, close quote. Let's get this straight, Lamar Jackson fan. I'm not saying that he sucks. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm not saying he's mediocre. I'm not saying he's average. He actually is pretty good. He wouldn't have won 2 MVPs if that was not the case. However, you have a guy who's probably about to eclipse the single season rushing mark for one candidate, and then another who in a loss threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 3 and threw for over 300 yards. And that was last week. He followed that up with throwing over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns throwing and 2 touchdowns running in a win. Correct me if I'm wrong. What has Lamar Jackson done against a team like the Steelers? Oh, the team that you're going to be playing later on this week. Oh, that's right. That's right. 4 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Steelers are Lamar Jackson's kryptonite. So, Lamar Jackson fan, let's get this straight. And I want you to look at me right square in the eyes. He is not the MVP front runner. And in fact, he has someone on his team that's going to steal votes from him even if he was in Derrick Henry. So it's not sour grapes. It's not because he's black. It's not because he rushes all the time and we have a bias against running quarterbacks. No, there's other quarterbacks that have played better, and there's actually other people who have played better this year. No shade. That's just how it is. So, Lamar Jackson fan, congratulations. You know that I did not give shade to your man because he's my grand champ for this week. But to you all, gain some perspective, please. Goodness gracious. Oh, anything to add, sir?
Oh, that was great because there are fans of players when they have good moments that are just as toxic as bad players that are on the field. So I like where you went there. From a racist to bad fans. So that's pretty good switch. We went from here with my pick. It's my pick to Cole's right here. Look at the toothless expletive right there. And yes, the expletive starts with a B. Yes, you got the toothless fan, you got the fro, you got the raven, you got the sad face on the far left, with the fine divine female standing behind the other raven over there, and somebody with the audacity to have a Super Bowl ring on top of his head with a Lamar Jackson jersey. And then the guy in the top right corner that looks like he came from a YMCA bar from the 80s. Other than that, when it comes to this situation right here, from a racist to the fans, I feel like our picks for the Snowflake of the Week were yet again fire.
Oh, thank you, sir.
It melted the snowflake.
I'm glad it melted the snowflake. Goodness gracious. Hilarious. Hilarious. Well.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it.
Well, unfortunately, it is that time once again. We have arrived to the post game. This is where we give our final thoughts for the week that was, and maybe even thoughts to the weeks to come. And for his final thoughts for this week in this episode, I turn it over to Drew.
There's one part in this show I despise. This moment right here, where we're at the end. I hate it. But as time moves on, we got other things we got to do out here in these streets as we do the best we can out here in these streams to get it done for a 2-hour show with talking football. We've had 15 weeks of football so far. Just like Cole said to start the show, the buys are now over until the first week of the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for the remaining 3 weeks of this 18-week season. It's feeling like the playoffs, the holidays, everything has gotten here so fast. I mean, we are just a week away from Christmas. Those of you out there who celebrate Christmas, those of you out there who celebrate other holidays and other time frames throughout this month, happy holidays to you. And hopefully the one thing that can still bring us all together, no matter which different holiday, no matter which different culture, we can get united by football. Okay, get united by the unity of football because, hey, whether your team absolutely sucks, like the Giants and the Raiders and the Panthers, even the Jets, who found their way to their 4th win of the year, when they win, just kind of adds a little extra kick to your week, a little extra jolt to your step in your week. Now, when they lose, especially when they lose like the way the Giants have, I can understand it sucks. Or if you're a Raiders fan, if it sucks. I mean, but at the same time, I hope that the message that I can relay to you by the end of this is no matter how bad they suck, it doesn't stop your flow. Because look at what the Commanders were doing when they were the Redskins and the Washington football team. And I'm not speaking for myself, but there are others out there who were fans of these teams that were bad. The Detroit Lions, when they were 0-16, look at how bad how much their turnaround has come. Don't ever give up on your team. The one thing I hate seeing from fans out there is when their team sucks, they refuse to watch the game. Or I'm just going to not watch the game, pretty much be a poor sport. Like, you as a human absolutely suck. If that's how you walk through life, you suck as a person. Your attitude sucks. You don't deserve to be a sports fan in general. Oh, my team was in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and now your team sucks like the 49ers. Oh, I'm not going to watch them, or I'm not going to do a coverage of them and I work at the media because they suck right now. Do you remember when the Commanders were 4-13 last year? Do you remember a person who's sitting here almost yelling at your screen right now? This guy still covered the team. This guy still stayed loyal. This guy had an expletive championship designed before this team did what they did this year, coming off a 4-13 season. Okay. I haven't been ashamed to rep the colors, the brand, or build a brand around a team that was not playing well at the time. You got to have hope. So if you give up on your team just when they need you the most as a fan, you don't deserve to be even talking about them on a screen, let alone watching them. So that's how I feel as I go into this rant in the post game. I hope your team isn't a part of the team that absolutely sucks category right now. And I hope that you aren't part of the ones that I'm talking about, because the silence speaks volumes. And it's the ones out here that are going to say the same thing, whether his team sucks, or say the same thing, whether his team has a pretty decent year with a promising future based on the moves that were made. I'm still going to come at you with the same heat, with the same passion, and with the same knowledge, and even own up to it when I was wrong about the fact that Sam Howell was the future, okay? All right? So, looking at it for what it is, I hope you, except Seahawks fans out there who have to deal with the Sam Howell debacle and the Geno Smith debacle and the you don't know what's going to happen next situation. I hope that your team and that you are doing well out here in these streets and in these fields, because, again, we're a week away from Christmas, week away from those who universally celebrate holidays, as the main one is Christmas. It brings people together. But if you don't celebrate it, again, enjoy your holiday, enjoy football, as we are one step closer to seeing who are the real teams to watch for the 2024 season.
Oh man, wonderful thoughts, and oh Lord, if you don't follow your team, you suck as a human. That man, ooh, that's a bar.
It's also loyalty, man. You got to stay loyal. You can't just be around when they play well. You can't pull your jersey out of the closet 6 years and dust it off since the last time they played well, or in some cases 30 if you're a Cowboys fan. But hey, it is what it is. All right? Just stay true to your team, whether they suck or not.
Yeah. Because actually, it's those hard times that you go through when they do go well. It makes those good times feel that much better. I agree with you there.
I feel good for my Lions fans right now. I only know a few, but
too.
one of them is my main man Hawk. Feel good for him right now. Even though they got the loss, still this year that they are having, still looking good for them.
Yeah, I feel good for them too, and I do know a couple Lions fans as well. Yeah, I feel for them. And I'm happy for him as well. When you watch games and you watch athletics, you want to see the best in humanity. You want to see the best in athletes. But unfortunately, we're human, and we're going to see the worst in them, because we're going to see the worst in us. Take, for example, the game that we unfortunately and unfortunately, sometimes the worst can be humorous, and sometimes the worst can be absolutely angering and maddening. Take the humor side of it. So last Monday, there was a wonderful game played between the Bengals and the Cowboys, where within 2 minutes to go in the game, a punt was blocked, but Amani Wanye decided to field the punt and forgot, it's just like every other type of punt, that if it's in the air and it goes past line of scrimmage, I don't touch the ball. No. He decided to try to field it. What happens, of course, since he is not a punt returner, it went right through his arms, into the waiting arms of the Bengals, and then they promptly marched down the field for a touchdown. But what made it even funnier was Gerald afterwards basically saying that, well, shouldn't have punted the ball. I mean, we have to go and think about those things before we actually go and do it. Come on, Gerald. You should have forgotten more about this game than I know. Can you not be a caricature of an owner that is absent-minded? I mean, you want your team to block punts, especially it's under 2 minutes to go in the game, and the game is tied. And if that would have been the case, at worst, you would have had the ball in Bengals territory and you have a long legged kicker. You drown some time on the clock. You put Brandon Aubrey on the field. You kick a field goal. You win it 23-20. But no, you decided to be the bungling Cowboys that you are, and now you're going to be on the outside looking in because I don't think you'll even have a shot at the playoffs, much less get there. And I know you're crossing your fingers, hoping that final game against the Commanders actually will count as a playoff or done game or win or go home type of game. But you did it to yourself. You could have been that, but y'all playing. But see, that was humorous. 3 days later was when the angering part of the worst of humanity in athletics comes into play. So we should have had an exciting moment where we got a chance to see Dre Greenlaw, the 49ers, get on the field for the first time since he trotted out on the field, or tried to trot out on the field in the second quarter of the Super Bowl and messed his knee up. He was back, and he played pretty well. He played as well as he could, and he had to leave. Well, the person that took his place for the balance of this year was upset that Dre Greenlaw got the start over him. And that him is Devontae Campbell. And when it was his time to go into the game, he told the coaches, nope, and he walked off the field. Let's get something understood. What makes athletics great is that you have people who you may not like. You have people you may not even know. But for a common goal and a common purpose, you're there and he's there, and you're bound and you bind together, you form the brotherhood, and you learn things about yourself that you ordinarily would not know if you were put in a different situation or if you weren't put in this one. You get to know how much a man can be for you. But if you're going to have a selfish and a narcissistic and a self-absorbed viewpoint, you'll be like Devontae Campbell, where it's like, I don't give a crap. It's not about that. It's just about me. The team can kick rocks and walk off the field. And you don't care if it's a player you say it to. You don't care if it's a position coach you say it to. You don't care if it's the head coach you say it to. You like, bump that, I'm gone, and you walk off. The reason why people love athletics, and the reason why I'm not going to claim that this is the reason, but I know it's one of them. One of the reasons I know why Drew loves the sport of football and why I love the sport of football is the fact that we've had a chance to play alongside individuals, and we strive for that one common goal together, and that we learned more about ourselves in that time period than ever before. And then we find out, wow, I actually have more things in common with this guy than I do separate and different. Okay, well then I think I can fight harder for this brother. That's why we go and we root so hard for these teams. That's why we root so hard for certain players. That's why we root so hard for certain sides of teams too, because we see their camaraderie, and that is what sports is about: building a camaraderie, being together, and playing as one. So I want you all to know, if you're new to sports or athletics or football, I want you to know that what you saw Thursday night with Devontae Campbell, that I would say is an anomaly. That's a rule. That's the exception to the rule. The rule is that it's all for one and one for all. And that will never change. And I'm so glad that we can actually say that it's a misnomer and not a harbinger of things to come or par for the course. And we can simply laugh off of Devontae Campbell. We can laugh off an Antonio Brown. We can laugh those instances off because we know that's just a one-off. What does matter is that we have brothers, and we combine as one, and we shoot for that North Star, which is to be the best, all of us together.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Any more thoughts, sir?
This was another great adventure with us rocking and rolling through episode 68. We'll have a special number next week for right before Christmas, too, which will be awesome, too. So, hey, as always, tune in to this program every Monday. Tune in to Total Football Talk Extra, usually on Fridays. This past week, I had to do it late Saturday night, just with the way the busyness of the week went. But looking at how much we got into this episode, it was good that I got that in because we still went to nearly 3 hours without those two games. So, and we'll have Mondays, tonight's games, Monday night games, and Thursday on this upcoming episode of Extra. But then once we get to the playoffs, there'll be no more Extra. Extra will be sticking around throughout the remainder of this season. I still have planned to get another guest or two in there within the last couple of episodes. We got to work those kinks out throughout the remainder of this week. But you'll see some special guest appearances on there. But to those of you watching on Comey Media, on Sartoba Media, thank you as always for tuning in. Please hook us up with the like and the share and the subscribe if you haven't done so already. And to those of you listening or watching on BS3 Network on Tuesday night, thank you as always for tuning in. Then or WQEE 99.1 FM on Tuesday or Thursday nights, and or Real Wise Radio. If still there, that is up for Cole to confirm on that one. I still send it, just haven't seen it. Haven't really had a chance to check it. So that's in my defense. I haven't had a chance to check it. But we are rocking and rolling in multiple areas out here in these streets, and these streams would be possible without those of you, the viewers. Thank you very much for tuning in and giving us that support. I do want to throw one more thing out there for Shenanigans non-sports based. If you did not get a chance to see it, check out the Evil Little People episode from last week, episode 29 of D. Willie in the Evening from this past Thursday, 30 minutes of shenanigery. Go back and check it out. And I now know how to use chapters. So you can go in there and click on the actual timestamp of when that chapter started. And then the mid-season finale is this Thursday. Taco Tuesday destroyed Santa this upcoming Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, the last episode before the holiday break. Episode 30, D. Willie in the Evening. Don't miss it on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
I did not know I needed to see Santa on a toilet crapping. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. That I thought the title would get me, but when I saw it was the toilet and Santa.
And you got the sneak peek of the promo I sent you yesterday too. I was cooking some things up last night, but yes, that's going to be recorded here shortly, since I am taking a PTO day today, my last of PTO days I get to use before the end of the year. And get to spend it with Cole today a little bit, but I'm going to be recording that tonight, and that will be there Thursday, 30 minutes or less. I get pizza delivery.
Well, I definitely will tune in and watch that because, heck, I need a laugh.
If you thought the little midget videos that were running around in this past week with the Evil Little People was great, I got some things in store for that. I still got to put the shorts out for that. That right there, I've been told was some comedic genius, and it was an experience, and I was slapping some things together. And storytelling and the shenanigery is one of my favorite things to do when I get a chance to do.
Yeah, and you do it well. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to watch Evil Little People again. Well, outside of watching D. Willie in the Evening, if you want to catch Drew, all you have to do is go
to work.
The myriad of social medias that he has. Sartoba_media on Instagram, Sartoba_media, excuse me, on X. Also the underscore Sartopia on TikTok, and Sartoba Media on YouTube. And if you want to reach yours truly, you can just go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, I just enjoyed all of you. Thank you, Tribe. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate everybody. I really enjoyed episode 68 of Total Football Talk. I enjoyed this, and it sucks to come to the end, but, well, all things must come to said end. Well, thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting that notification bell and catching everything, not just D Will in the Evening, but all things that come from the Sartoga Media YouTube channel, as well as the Comey Media YouTube channel. We appreciate the love and the support from all of you. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
Most importantly, stay safe out here in these streets. Taco Tuesdays in Santa with an epic proportion.